Tonight and tomorrow inside the Blue Cross Arena. So they got two back-to-back games, and I'll tell you what, it should be a good one tonight. Joining me right here at the
shot, rebound picked up, Keno Hill, what a great save! Stone cold, wow! Genius shoots! Game over! That's the trophy. Fireworks on. The atmosphere is electric. Here we go!
It's no coincidence that the fact that Kaz is now playing like we've seen the longtime veteran play is the reason why this team has strung some back-to-back wins together, and he's heating up just at the right time with this huge home-and-home series with the Knighthawks this weekend.
So Ryan Benesh remains out due to concussion protocol, and Blaze Reardon came up with a lower body injury after Saturday night's game. So general manager Steve Dietrich had to go to the trade market, and he found somebody that he really wanted, and he got him in Pat Saunders.
Yeah, they've been after Pat Saunders before last season. They tried to sign him to an offer sheet, but New England matched it, so they held on to his rights. But obviously, Saunders, somebody that's been on Chugger's radar for some time, and when with Benny out with the concussion, and then Blaze going down with, I believe, is a lower body injury, they saw an opportunity to bring in another lefty to fill the void left by those two guys. Brad Self's done great filling in, but they could use another lefty stick to help him out on that side, and so they acquired Saunders. And Pat kicked around the league for his first few years, drafted back in 2009, but he bounced between Toronto and Rochester and Philly. Always, get to the practice squad or be a scratch, but never made it. Finally, he hit the active roster in 2014 with Philly before they moved to New England, and he's just taken off in his 3 full years in the league, and he's coming off, his best season in the league, scored 44 goals last season for New England, and a little bit of a numbers game for him down in New England when they got former Bandit Daryl Veltman. He was kind of the odd man out on their left side, and that became him expendable to move here to Buffalo, and he'll definitely help out the left side tonight for the Bandits.
Bandits are a half game head of the Rochester Knighthawks. Bandits 3-5 on this season, and the Knighthawks 3-6 after their 9 games played. And Dave, they're coming off a big 12-8 come from behind victory last week in Vancouver, and a big player of theirs, a youngster in Josh Courier.
Yeah, they added 2 huge rookies, kind of like Toronto. We talked about their rebuilding. Rochester's kind of sort of doing a rebuild, although, part of it is because Cody James is down with an injury. But the Knighthawks do not have 3 of their top 4 scorers from last year, and they went in the top 10 overall draft this past year and drafted Josh Courier out of Virginia Wesleyan in Peterborough, and then drafted Kyle Jackson with the 7th overall pick. And these 2 guys have really contributed since being inserted in the lineup from day one. And in fact, Courier is tied for the team lead in points coming into tonight with 30 points, and that includes 15 goals on the season for Courier.
And we go back between the pipes over for the Knighthawks, and we're speaking about Matt Vince. I'll tell you what, he's a tough goaltender, 5-time goaltender of the year.
Yeah, Vince is one of the all-time greats of the league. He's backstopped some championship runs for this Knighthawks franchise, and this will be one of the great goaltending matchups. You've got Kaz, who's on the precipice of getting 7,000 career saves, and then you got Matty Vince at the other end of the floor, 2 of the best goalies all-time in this league.
Lineup changes for tonight, Dave. What do we have?
Well, along with the trade for Pat Saunders, a couple players getting active to the practice squad, but really the roster's pretty much intact from last week, except for Blaze Reardon, as Bryce Brochu will be the scratch tonight for the Bandits. Quinn Powell is scratch for the Knighthawks this evening.
Let's go down to the floor for the singing of the Canadian and U.S. national anthems by South Buffalo's own Kevin Kennedy.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all thy sons command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God, keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Crowd still filing through the respective portals here at the Key Bank Center. It is Native American Night in salute of this great game in honor of the creator. John Gertler, Dave Buchanan with you this evening. Hi, atop the Key Bank at Ted Darling Memorial Press Box, and hovering around the starting goaltender tonight, a trio of Bandits, along with their entire team now, as Anthony Cosmo goes between the pipes at .759 save percentage. Made 48 saves last week against Toronto, 2-2 on the season. And then to our broadcast right down the dial will be Matt Bentz, 5-time goaltender of the year, .784 save percentage, a 3-5 record, and made 35 saves against Vancouver last week. Mark Cardonio is the crew chief tonight. Kyle Kennery and Matt Garrison, the assistant referees, and Jeremy Bailey will be working the shot clock upfield. Great to have you with us tonight on the radio, WGR Sports Radio 550 and WGWE in Salamanca, and to all of our viewers tonight on NLLTV.com.
Huge weekend series between these two teams, especially for playoff implications. The Bandits right now sitting in sole possession of third place in the NLL East. Of course, that'll be the final playoff spot. Rochester at the bottom of the division, half a game back at 3-6. If one team sweeps this weekend, it'll be huge for their record, and also, of course, the head-to-head, as these teams only play 3 times this year. So if one team sweeps this weekend, they will get the tiebreaker if these two teams should come down to a tie for that third and final playoff spot. Of course, last year, Buffalo swept the season series against Rochester 3-0.
Tim Edwards goes for Buffalo on the draw, 41% coming into this evening's game. Dylan Evans at 42%, and it will be Buffalo's ball and a technical foul. So beginning off is the former K-Hawk Brad Self in on the rush now with Dane Smith along with Mitch Jones over the line, and Smith with a shot that's blocked into traffic. England got in the way of that one, and the loose ball picked up by Rochester, and they'll bring it back out to midfield. This is first quarter action tonight from the Key Bank Center. In over the line goes Joey Reseteris, sharing the lead in scoring with the young Josh Courier. A right wing pass from Dan Dawson, leaving it to the far side. Now to the near side is Reseteris. 10 seconds left on the shot clock from the slot area. Now picked up by the young Kyle Jackson. He's hampered by Bandits captain Billy D. Smith. A far pass to Dan Dawson, but the Knighthawks couldn't get anything going. Here come the Bandits back out to midfield. Matthew Bennett in the transition, leaving it right off now to Mitch Jones, tipping it back outside the lane, as it's handled by the newly acquired Pat Saunders, wearing jersey number 14, as he did with New England and Philadelphia. Top of the slot is Saunders couldn't hang on to it. Comes right in front of Matt Vince with 5 seconds left on the shot clock, and the Knighthawks pick it up and push it back out to midfield. No score here in the first quarter. In over the line is Brett Gillis. A big save by Anthony Cosmo, and the ball just stopped right at the goal line.
Andrew Watt had to dive and catch that one before it trickled across the stripe there. Gillies with the shot almost squeaked through the pads of Anthony Cosmo. Talk about Brad Self playing against his former mates again. Rochester down, missing 5 of their top 8 scores from last year, including Cody Jamieson, who of course is on IR, re-aggravating a knee injury at the start of the season.
Boy, they made a lot of changes over the course of the year, and the acquisition of Kyle Jackson and Josh Curry are a pleasant surprise. Mike Hazen, who is the head coach of the Knighthawks, followed the career of Josh Currier, who played for the junior Peterborough Lakers, and then Hazen, being a part of the Lakers big club during the summertime, brought him right up and said, "You're a part of my team, and then I want you down in Rochester as well." So far, so good. Dan Dawson couldn't get anything together as he's checked from behind off the good pursuit of Matthew Bennett, but illegal positioning for Buffalo gives the Knighthawks the opportunity to take shot right onto the left side of Cosmo. Loose ball is picked up, and here comes Buffalo out of their own zone. Only one shot to report, and it's for the Knighthawks. And this scoreless game in the early goings of this first quarter. Deep from the corner is Alexander Keto Hill, tipping the ball back out to midfield to Brad Self, who eyes out over to Pat Saunders. Saunders from right, taking a shot, just glazing the side of Matt Vince. And the ball goes over the glass and into the crowd, so it'll be the Knighthawks ball back out at midfield. Both teams testing each other here in the early goings. Ball carried over the line by Joey Reseteris, now to the near side to Luke Magnum. Tried to feed a pass over to Reseteris, but couldn't do it, and Buffalo is there. Buffalo's defense playing very tight tonight.
Yeah, they did a great job too last week against Toronto. Toronto had 60 shots, but they didn't get a lot of quality chances last week. And same strategy looks like here again, implemented by defensive head coach Richie Kilgore.
Mark Stainhouse tipping it over to Mitch Jones. What a week for him. 13 points in the last 3 games for Mitch Jones. Good crushing check by Paul Dawson, forcing the play up along the boards. Resilient there, and Craig Edwards taking a beating, but he still hangs on with his balance, and finally the play is called, and I believe there will be a penalty coming up.
Yeah, Paul Dawson, he's going to get called for that check on Mark Stainhouse. Drop Stainer right on his backside, and I'm assuming this is going to be a legal body check for the first power play of the evening.
One too many bumps by Paul Dawson, 6'5", 225 pounds.
Yeah, legal body check on Paul Dawson, the big man of the Rochester back end. As he thumped, or excuse me, that was Craig Englund he knocked backwards. As
looked pretty clean to me.
I think it has to do with Englund might have been a little defenseless there. I know the league trying to crack down on that this year.
Buffalo 57%, 4th overall in the league as the power play efficiency, 20 for 35 coming into this evening's game. Here's Buffalo's shot, saved by Matt Vince. Penalty kill for Rochester at 44%. Shot clock reset. Buffalo rewinds. From the top of the slot is Dane Smith. Near side is Pat Sanders. Here's Mark Stainhouse. Smith from the slot. Now works over for the left side. Takes the shot. Splitting save by Matt Vince. And the loose ball picked up by Andrew Suter. And it's cleared back out at midfield. And now an opportunity for Scott Campbell, who's back in the lineup for Rochester. Just recently assigned to the active roster this afternoon. Former member of the Toronto Rock. Clears it back out at center while Rochester takes some more time off the penalty to Paul Dawson. No score here in the first quarter of play. Joey Reseteris field wide. Tipping it back over to Kyle Jackson. Trying to feed it in front, but Buffalo's defense is there. And Anthony Cosmo finishes it off by getting it out to midfield. Matthew Bennett will leave it over for Mitch Jones. Right wing side down in the K-Hawk zone. Top of the slot, and the quarterback of the power play is Dane Smith. Deep from the corner, Alexander Keto Hill. Stainhouse to Smith. Back over to Saunders to Smith. Shooting, scores!
Big blast from the great Dane. Dane Smith blowing one by Matty Vince on the glove side. And Buffalo strikes first here with 10:17 to go in the first quarter. From the top of the point goes Dane, and that'll be Pat Saunders' first point as a Bandit, as he's fed it over to Smith, who closed in from the top of the slot. And that's what Dane does so well. He makes those big, heavy shots just look so effortless.
22 points in his last 3 games. Coming into this evening's game, Dane Smith with his 12th goal of the season. 1-0 Buffalo. Here tonight from the KeyBank Center in celebration of Native American Night. And congratulations to Nicole Printup from Niagara University from the Tuscarora Reservation for winning the Bandits' $1,000 scholarship. Mitch Jones down in the K-Hawk zone from right, coming straight in. Vince coming up with a gut save, and the rebound picked up by Dylan Evans. The workhorse for the Knighthawks. In over the line come the Knighthawks with a full head of steam. Jared Davis back into a Rochester uniform after spending 4 seasons with the Rush and 2 championships to boot. There's a long drive, score! Rochester from the right point.
That was Kyle Jackson, a bit of a one-hopper. I think it caught Anthony Cosmo as it hopped right before it got to his feet, and it took a bounce just over to the right of Cos and hopped by Cosmo, and Rochester on the board here 1-1 with 9:30 to go. As Jackson's 10th goal of the season, product of the University of Michigan, the first ever Michigan Wolverine selected in the NLL draft. Also played junior A ball in Kitchener-Waterloo. So we are tied at 1.
So a most valuable player in college, and he's turned out to be a good one for the Knighthawks to take the goose egg off the scoreboard here at KeyBank and tie this game up at 1. Buffalo with the ball from the right wing side. Matthew Bennett one-hands it over to Alexander Keto Hill, who flies over from the left point deep into the far Rochester corner, tipping it back over to Dane Smith. Smith feeding it in front, couldn't get the connection on the quick stick to Keto Hill, backed up by Saunders from the top of the slot. Low drive, save, Vince, rebound in front. Again a shot by Buffalo, and Vince coming up with a smothering save. And that will stop things with 8 minutes and 55 seconds left to play here in the first quarter. Score is tied at 1. This is Bandits lacrosse.
Brought to you in part by Sports Interaction, Canada's home for worldwide sports betting. Bet responsibly at sportsinteraction.com. Disclaimer, only residents of Canada may open an account with Sports Interaction. The service is not available to users outside of Canada.
He's got Digby on the take, scores!
Now back over to Dane Smith with a shot. Hit the goal post inside, he scores!
Afraid you might miss out on the big stories from your favorite team? Well, not to fear, the NLL newsletter is here. All you have to do is subscribe to the new NLL newsletter, and you'll get weekly updates from everything that is happening around the league. What are you waiting for? Subscribe today.
By calling 1-888-467-2273. John Gertler with you this evening, along with Dave Buchanan. Scott Fleetwood is our director. TJ Luckman, our producer tonight. And Barry McClellan at the controls of NLL TV. 1-1 the score. Dane Smith for Buffalo and Kyle Jackson for Rochester.
Tonight, the halfway point of the Bandit season. Game 9 of 18, and Game 10 will be tomorrow afternoon at the Blue Cross Arena between these two clubs at 1 o'clock. We'll have pregame at 12:30 on WGR and WGWE.
And that's a matter of 15 hours.
Yes.
So, these guys have to refuel here. Now, Matt Meyer, who's the massage therapist, deep tissue massage therapist for the Buffalo Bandits, and Jim Starhe, the athletic trainer for the Bandits as well, have combined together to put together something at the end of the game, including ice baths and rehydrating, special foods, whatnot like that. I think I'll go down there as well.
Are you going to like gargle some tea or something tonight?
Penalty coming up against Buffalo, so Rochester will have the man advantage as Matthew Bennett reluctantly goes to the box. Bandits.
Yeah, Matthew Bennett, 2 minutes for holding. Took the stick out of Dan Dawson's hands in the offensive zone. So Rochester will go up with the man for the first time tonight. You mentioned it earlier, the 60th meeting between these two clubs.
Rochester goes to work immediately with the man advantage. Shot right on. Cosmo with a big save, and the rebound picked up by Mitch Desnew, who tips it back over to Steve Priolo. Here's Priolo and Desnew combining together, shooting it. And Vince coming up with a save. The rebound swatted away to the near boards, but Priolo went inside the crease area, and Rochester clears it back out to midfield. 1-1 the score here in the first. Dan Dawson, who directs a perfect power play for the Knighthawks, brings the club inside the Bandit zone. Goes into the far corner. Resetaris from the top of the slot. Near side is Dawson. Behind the back pass as he does so well. Now Resetaris tried to get the shot away, but is hit by Billy D. Smith. Rebound is picked up by the K-Hawks. 5 seconds left on the shot clock, and Buffalo's got the ball in a break now for Steve Priolo. Now it's a 2-on-1. Running, shooting right on as a Dane Smith. And it's turned aside by Vince, and the rebound to the near boards inside the Rochester zone. And it's picked up by Andrew Suter and pushed back out to midfield. 1-1 the score here in the first quarter of play. 55 seconds left in the penalty to Matthew Bennett. In over the line is Dan Dawson from the top of the slot. He takes the shot, saved Cosmo. Rebound is Kyle Jackson from the right point. Back over to Dawson from the top of the slot. Looking. Back to Jackson with a shot that goes wide. Rebound picked up by the Knighthawks. Saved the over and back charge by Dan Dawson, who works right back in from the slot area. Dawson over the shoulder feed to Resetaris. That's blocked by Buffalo's Billy D. Smith, and the ball bounces all the way back down into the K-Hawk zone.
Great penalty kill so far for the Bandits as Matty Vince just tossed up a wounded duck into the Rochester bench, so that Buffalo will take possession here with 15 seconds to go, and the penalty for Bennett. So a great kill by the Bandits. They had a 3-on-1 and a 2-on-1, and the defense really boxed out Rochester there in their own zone.
What a night so far for the Bandits team captain Billy D. Smith, involved in several defensive confrontations already. Bennett from the box. Buffalo playing 5 strong. Self-faking the move. Works it from the top of the slot. Left wing pass to a running Dane Smith. Here's Smith with a shot. Just off a Rochester defender. Rebound picked up by Jones. He tries over the crossbar shot, but that's hit and bounces back out to midfield. Score tied at 1. Shots on goal 9-5 favoring the Bandits. Jarrett Davis from the left point. Far side pass intended to a running Jackson, but it's picked up by Buffalo. And the loose ball, turning on the speed from the top of the slot. Shooting just to the left side of Matt Vince. It's Tim Edwards with his speed, and he's already back down into the Buffalo zone. The end of the line is Jackson. He dekes his way, but hit by Mitch Desnew. Jackson finds a little shade from behind the Buffalo net, but an errant pass finds Edwards coming up with the ball again. And a right wing pass now to Kevin Brodell. Score tied at 1 here in the first quarter. Brodell from the right wing side, tipping it back over to Pat Saunders. Saunders to a running Stainhouse from left, deep into the corner over to Craig England. England works his way back outside the restraining line from the far side, back to Stainhouse near side, over to Saunders. Fakes the move over the shoulder shot, saved Cosmo. Boy, that had a lot of heat on it.
Yeah, that was the shot to try and beat the shot clock, and it made contact with Vince. Bandits almost got the ball back. Good job there to get a chance off by the new Bandit, Pat Saunders.
Andrew Suter with a long drive, saved Cosmo, jumps out in front. Bennett is there for Buffalo, and he comes from behind the net to the near side, pushes the ball back out to midfield. Score tied at 1. Mitch Jones couldn't get the feed from Bennett and lets it trickle down to the left side of Vince, who scoops it up in his large goaltender stick and makes the outlet pass down the left wing lane to Adam Bomberry. Bomberry making a quick transition, but Buffalo steals the ball. It's Andrew Watt who's got it. Watt comes in on a 2-on-2, now 3-on-2. Buffalo top of the slot. Feed back and forth. Shots right on by Dane Smith. Saved Matt Vince. Boy, he read that one quickly.
Some errant passes by Rochester and another turnover by although it winds up back in the stick of Corey Vitarelli, but a lot of bad turnovers by the Knighthawks already tonight here in this first quarter.
Here's another turnover for Buffalo. Smith with a shot, point blank range in front of Matt Vince. Rebound goes into the far corner, and Dane Smith went inside the crease area, which stops the clock with 3 minutes and 59 seconds left to play here in quarter number 1. Score tied at 1. This is Bandits Lacrosse.
He's got Digby on the take, scores!
Now back over to Dane Smith with a shot. Hit the goal post inside, he scores!
Afraid you might miss out on the big stories from your favorite team? Well, not to fear, the NLL newsletter is here. All you have to do is subscribe to the new NLL newsletter, and you'll get weekly updates from everything that is happening around the league. What are you waiting for? Subscribe today.
So if we can bury our outside shots, it's going to bring their defense a lot more, and that's going to be the key to game today offensively. If we can score on outside shots against him, because that's the only thing they really want to give up. So if we can get in tight, we got to bury those opportunities as well. But I think if we can get to him early from the outside, it's going to disrupt their defensive system.
So they can get to him early, which they did with Dane Smith. And Smith has already had a point-blank range shot. That's what they want to try to do, is get to him in front of the net. Bandits had great success last week in doing that with Blaze Reardon along with Craig England, and Rochester scores an easy goal. That's by former Bandit Joey Resateras.
Yeah, the Hamburg native just weaseled his way in around a couple Bandit defenders. Got a one-on-one chance on Anthony Cosmo. Got Cos to go down, and he just went up and over Anthony Cosmo, and Resateras came into the game tied with Courier for the team lead in scoring, and that is goal number 12 on the year for Joe. And it's 2-1 Knighthawks with 3:42 to go here in the first quarter.
Shots on goal favoring Buffalo 12-7, but the success now for Joey Resateras to give his club a 2-1 lead from the draw, picked up by Edwards, powered it all the way back to his own line, and now it's picked up by the Bandits again. Feed pass, tipping it back over to Brad Self. Self outside the line, far side pass to a running Keto Hill, now to Stainhouse. Near side over to Jones. Jones from the slot area, far side, Keto Hill with a shot, Vince with a save, and a penalty coming up against the Knighthawks. And Mark Stainhouse slow in getting up from a collision.
Looks like Adam Bomberry's going to sit here. 5-minute high sticking call on Bomberry. So Buffalo going to get a chance to score at least 2 here with the extra man on a 5-minute power play opportunity. As he decked Stainhouse in the side of the head. And so Buffalo here at the extra man for potentially the rest of the first quarter.
Stainhouse with a shot that's blocked by Rochester's defense. Loose ball picked up by Paul Dawson, and he files it all the way to his brother, to Dan Dawson, but couldn't make the connection. Waiting at the Buffalo restraining line. 2-1 Rochester here in the first quarter of play. Buffalo working on a 5-minute major assessed to Bomberry. Stainhouse to Keto Hill, deep into the Rochester corner, back to Stainhouse. Now to the right wing side to Saunders, top of the slot to Smith. Saunders with a shot, that's blocked by the K-Hawks defense. Saunders gets his own rebound. 5 seconds left on the shot clock for Buffalo. Here's Keto Hill, scores!
A low blast from Keto Hill, and that one might have got between the wickets of Matty Vince. And that's Buffalo's first power play goal here on this 5-minute power play, and it's all tied up at 2 with 2:28 to go here in the first quarter, as Keto just lets one rip, and that one I think got between the legs of Vince. And a little bow and arrow from Keto for the celebration. As that one just got through on Vince. Great goal from Keto. As Buffalo been going heavy on the right side, John, on the offense with Stainhouse, Keto, and Dane Smith, with Benesh and Reardon hurt. The left side hurting a little bit, so you're only seeing 2 lefties out there on most of these offensive possessions tonight.
9th goal of the season for Alexander Keto Hill. Had his best going last week. 1 goal, 5 assists, and now points of 7 of his 9 games for Alexander Keto Hill. Score tied at 2. 2:05 left to play here in the first quarter. Buffalo remains on the power play to that 5-minute major. A right side pass over to Saunders from the slot area. That's blocked by the big defense for the Knighthawks. Rebound is gathered with 5 seconds to shoot on the shot clock. Dane Smith. 1 second left. Here's Stainhouse with a shot. Save. Matt Vincent, he hangs on to it in the webbing of his stick and makes the outlet pass down the left wing lane over to Brad Gillies. 3:27 left in the penalty to Adam Bomberry. 2-2 the score here in the first. Time management for the K-Hawks to take off that Bomberry 5-minute major. A high stick on to Mark Stainhouse. A right wing pass over to Kyle Jackson. Jackson leading it over to Dawson with a shot. Scores! No.
It was on the line. It was close. It was 2/3 over the line, maybe. That one just started rolling, and they are going to challenge this one. Mike Hazen throws the red flag out there.
Cosmo had to watch it go past the goal line. Whether it went across in its entirety, that's what they will take a look at.
Yeah. Just like the NHL, where the whole puck has to cross the goal line. Same story here in the National Lacrosse League. The ball has to completely cross the line. It was just past or on the line. Obviously, we'll get a look here on the replay for those of you watching on NLL TV, and we'll describe it for those listening on the radio. But this will be a close call to see if Rochester's going to get a shorthanded goal out of this. As
Mark Cardonio, the crew chief tonight in this game, will go to the off-field officials and put his headset on and take a look at all of the replays available to him here at the KeyBank Center. And Dave, we're getting our first look at it, as are the fans at KeyBank Center, as they have this luxury of watching the challenge. And did the ball cross its goal line?
Just barely, and I think it rolled back on the line after it went across. This is going to be close. I don't know. It seems like, from our vantage point, just watching the monitor here in the press box, that there was enough of a gap there to see green between the ball and the goal line. But last week, I thought Buffalo was going to have one go against them, and they wound up saying inconclusive. So it will remain to be seen what the referee's seeing down there between the penalty boxes.
And we don't have an overhead camera here at KeyBank Center, so we can't really tell whether that ball crossing the goal line in its entirety. And Anthony Cosmo watching it, and we're getting a closer replay, trying to tip it out while he just watched that ball approach the goal line, hit the goal line, and did it cross in its entirety on that 5.5-ounce ball. We'll await for the decision made as the challenge by head coach Mike Hazen of the K-Hawks. And to see whether that goal will stand. And I see it right at the moment just sitting right at the goal line. Whether or not it passed out and he kind of oozed it back across. Or
yeah, I don't know if it's going to be conclusive enough. But Josh Currier did the smart thing, stayed out of the goal crease as he saw it rolling. And we're going to get the ruling here. Of course, if he would have been in the crease when it rolled across, it'd be no goal. No goal.
So much to the delight of the fans here tonight at the KeyBank Center, and it remains 2-2.
I just don't think the evidence was conclusive enough, and that's partially because of maybe the lack of the overhead camera here at the First Niagara Center. But yeah, it's hard to know for sure if it rolled. It looked like it rolled over, then rolled back, but.
Well, Dan Dawson with his 6'5" frame right in front of Anthony Cosmo, and does it so well no matter where he is on the floor. And when he gets close to the net, he can score, and he's a deadly one, but a great playmaker as well. There's Buffalo's shot straight on. Mitch Jones hitting the goalpost, and the rebound comes all the way back out to midfield. Picked up by Mark Stainhouse. Under a minute to play here in the first quarter. Score is tied at 2. Stainhouse back inside the K-Hawk zone, leaving it back behind the net to Alexander Keto Hill. Stainhouse to Smith. To Saunders, shooting it to the right side of Matt Vince. It stuck with him, so Buffalo gets a reset on the shot clock, and Stainhouse has it from the far boards. Now to the near side of it, Saunders on a hot shot stick. But that is turned aside and swept back behind the net, and the Knighthawks have it. 20 seconds left to play here in this first quarter. Score is tied at 2. Adam Bomberry sitting in the box, 5 minutes for high sticking. He's got 2 minutes left on that one. K-Hawks out at midfield, tipping the ball back to the left wing side, in over the line. Kyle Jackson now to the near side. Takes a twirl, but hit hard by Andrew Watt. And Watt has a few words with him at the buzzer to end the first quarter of play. Score is tied at 2. It's a good one tonight from the KeyBank Center in downtown Buffalo. This is Bandits Lacrosse.
Pro lacrosse teams are now fielded in Philadelphia, Boston, New York, Maryland, Montreal, and Quebec.
Yesterday there was friendly competition and not so friendly competition. We knew our true colors weren't just worn on our backs, they were painted on our faces and hoisted as high in the air as we could possibly carry them. Whatever it took to claim our turf. Yesterday, we left it all out there. Blood, sweat, tears.
Pro lacrosse teams are now fielded in Philadelphia, Boston, New York, Maryland, Montreal, and Quebec.
Yesterday, there was friendly competition and not so friendly competition. We knew our true colors weren't just worn on our backs. They were painted on our faces and hoisted as high in the air as we could possibly carry them. Whatever it took to claim our turf. Yesterday, we left it all out there. Blood, sweat, tears. You name it, we left it. We kept ourselves focused and we kept each other in check. And the only thing we took were epic shots. Yesterday, we saw more twists and turns in 8 seconds than most people saw in an entire season. We lost the ball, lost our minds. We lost countless times in every game. If you could see the ball, that was a slow day. Yesterday, physics didn't apply to us. Gravity wasn't welcome in our box. Armed with just a stick and a ball, we took flight. Yesterday, we were the best we could be. Today is our day.
5 for 5 in the faceoff circle so far tonight. The speedy Timmy Edwards set a Harbor Center record on the treadmill. Got up to 21 miles an hour on the treadmill last year.
Treadmill Timmy. From the draw to open up the second quarter of play tonight in celebration of Native American Night. And again, congratulations to Nicole Printup from Niagara University for winning the Bandits $1,000 scholarship. She is from the Tuscarora Reservation. Top of the slot, Buffalo inside the Knighthawks zone, moving left to right here in this second quarter of play. From the top of the slot, Jones with a shot that goes high over the netting and into the crowd. Remains Buffalo ball and a reset of a 30 from the right wing side. Pat Saunders uses the turf to get it over to Dane Smith to the near side. Top of the slot, tipping it back over from the areas. Brad Self, near side pass. Keto Hill. There's a shot by Saunders hitting the high netting and continues to be Buffalo's ball as it hit a Rochester defender. No reset. Yes, a reset on the shot clock. Here in the second quarter in the early goings. Buffalo still with the man advantage from the top of the slot. Near side pass. There's a shot straight on. And Smith's play is blocked by the Knighthawks defense. Plenty of time left on the shot clock from the top of the slot. Saunders now to the near side over to Alexander. Keto Hill to Saunders, shooting it. And the turf rejected that ball along the netting. And finally, the K-Hawks get out of their own zone. 45 seconds left in the 5-minute major. Adam Bomberry with the score is tied at 2 in this second quarter of play. Knighthawks from outside the restraining line of Buffalo. Far side is Joey Reseteras, who has scored in tonight's game. Tipping it back over to Dan Dawson, who takes a couple of swats from Mitch to Snoo. Play is forced along the far boards inside the Buffalo zone as Dawson kicks it down into the far corner, and Andrew Watt is there. 15 seconds left on Buffalo's man advantage. Score is tied at 2 here in this second quarter. And Dane Smith has an open mark. Stainhouse from left. Stainhouse back over to Smith. He'll select it back over to Saunders. Now Smith from the top of the slot looking. Saunders to feed a hot stick over to Stainhouse. And now the Knighthawks are back to full strength. Low drive. That by Mitch Jones with 5 seconds remaining. Outside the line now Smith. Jones again with a shot low. Save. Vince goes for the long outlet pass. As Matt Vince almost scored a goal as Anthony Cosmo came way out of his net to defend that ball and the long outlet pass and finally got himself back into position. The ball squirts back out to midfield, and here comes Buffalo again with the rush. In over the line is Alexander Keto Hill. Hangs on to the ball, waits for the complete line change of forwards to come out through the front door. An errant ball picked up by Pat Saunders. Saunders, nifty stick handling from the right point, drives straight in, and Vince comes up with a quality save. 20th shot on goal for Buffalo to the Knighthawks 8. Hawks in over the line from the top of the slot is Andrew Suter. Tipping it back over to Corey Vittorelli. Good Buffalo defense swatting that ball away from Vitarelli, who makes a putting move, putting the ball to the far boards to Dan Dawson. There's a long drive by Jarrett. And Jarrett Davis scores for the Knighthawks.
Yeah, Jarrett Davis from long range picking a corner there, just getting over the right shoulder of Anthony Cosmo from the top of the restraining line. And he had two Buffalo defenders coming at him, so that might have been a little bit of a screen there for Cos. And it is 3-2 Rochester here with 12:08 to go. And Matt Vince nearly made this game 3-2 himself. We saw it last week too, but Cos coming out of the net to try and tie up the transition player for Rochester that was cheating in the zone. And Vince bounced it, and it almost bounced in the Buffalo net. That was a close call.
So Jarrett Davis with his 4th goal of the season, and he's the player that came back to Rochester. It's been 2 years of his career before he went to Saskatchewan, and now is right back with the K-Hawks, and very happy indeed by giving the K-Hawks the 3-2 lead here in the second quarter. 11:41 remaining. Buffalo with the ball now, trying to get it back as the Knighthawks come up with it. Graham Hosick tipping it to the far side, tried to feed over to Kyle Jackson, couldn't do it, and now Buffalo's got the ball from the left wing side, and it's Dane Smith crossing the Rochester restraining line. Far side pass, running right in is Pat Saunders, but he's stopped by Vince, and the outlet pass connection made to Jackson, straight in, taking the shot, splitting save by Cosmo, and he stops Kyle Jackson right at the doorstep of the Buffalo net.
Huge stop there by Cos as Jackson was alone on a breakaway. Dane Smith chasing him down, and a splitting save by Cos there. Great job.
Brad Self from the right point, twirling around, finds an open Craig England from the left side. England powers his way in, low shot, scores! A lot of English on that one.
Yeah, that was a low shot, another low shot, beating Matt Vince for Craig England. Coming in, looked like he was going to go high, and then he switches to the underhanded shot, and Vince couldn't get down fast enough to stop it. And we're tied at 3 once again. The low roller by Craig England. 3-3 here with 10:52 to go in the first half.
11th of the season for Craig England. Player that went 18 games in his NLL career before he scores. And he does it all with Buffalo this year. He's had 3 2-goal games and shoots 48% from the floor. So, Dave, a perfect example of picking your shots at the right time. And he had a nice, low, hard shot to beat goaltender Matt Vince.
Yeah, sorry, John, but a lot of those goals come right around the crease. He scored a lot of goals in dirty areas this year. He's been such a delight. Just like Mitch Dessou last year was a surprise on this roster, England's been the surprise of the year with his great play on the offensive zone. He's really stepped in nicely.
Corey Vitarelli with the ball, leaving it down into the far corner. Twirling aside is Davis. Down to the right wing side to Lomas. Vitarelli couldn't hang on to it. Buffalo's defense comes up with the ball, and Dave Brock pushes it back out to midfield with full head of steam. Brock just outside the Rochester restraining line to Dane Smith, who finds a Kevin Brunell. Brunell remains a part of this rush down in the K-Hawk zone. Stainhouse to Smith. Smith from left, forced into the near corner. Feeding it back far over to Mitch Jones. Jones with a shot to the right side of the Rochester net. 5 seconds left on the shot clock. Feed pass along to Jones with another shot. And save. Cleared by Vince. And the loose ball picked up by Buffalo as it's reset. As Brad Self had a lot to do with that shot just recently. Score tied at 3 here in the second quarter to play. From the left wing side. Feed pass, score! Welcome, Pat Saunders.
Yeah, Rochester must not be used to seeing Pat Saunders in a Bandits uniform, because he just snuck right in there past a couple Rochester defenders, got left all alone on Matt Vince's doorstep, and he went low stick side on Vino. And Buffalo back on top here, 4-3 with 9:26 to go in the half. And Saunders, easy pickings for 14. Saunders already 3 points tonight, John. 2 assists. He had his helpers on the first 2 goals. Now he's got a goal, so 3 points already for Saunders here in his Bandits debut. Scored 44 last year for the New England Black Wolves.
Call him the Tom Brady of the NLL draft. A 6th round draft choice, left all alone. And finally gets a home with New England, and now back to Buffalo and scoring his first as a Bandit. 4-3 Buffalo. This is Bandits lacrosse.
Tonight's game is brought to you in part by Sports Interaction, Canada's home for worldwide sports betting. Bet responsibly at sportsinteraction.com. Disclaimer, only residents of Canada may open an account with Sports Interaction. The service is not available to users outside of Canada.
Miss your chance to see all the live action this season on NLLtv.com. You can sign up for the NLL Pass to watch all of the games on your favorite team. Plus, you get exclusive content, highlights, and interviews and more. That's NLLtv.com. Second quarter action tonight from the KeyBank Center, where the Bandits have regained the lead 4-3. John Gertler along with Dave Buchanan, Scott Fleetwood, our director, TJ Luckman, our producer, and Barry McClellan at the controls of NLL TV here in Buffalo.
John, one other game in progress tonight. The Toronto Rock hosting the New England Black Wolves, another NLL East matchup. And early on in the first quarter, New England has a 2-1 lead over the Rock on goals by Kevin Crowley and Riley O'Connor. Out west tonight, Colorado hosting Calgary at 9:30.
Shots on goal, 26-10 favoring the Bandits. They've got the 4-3 lead from behind the net down to the Bandits zone. The Knighthawks go to work. Twirling as Jackson with a shot saved. Cosmo rebound, Jackson on his own. Flipping it back over to the far side where Dan Dawson awaits from the left point. Leaving it down from the far corner to Davis. Now to Dan Lomas. Back over to Dan Dawson. Dawson looking, scores! Dangerous Dan Dawson with his 5th goal of the season.
A wily veteran, one of the game's all-time greats, and that's another long-distance shot that goes low and bounces just as it gets to the feet of Anthony Cosmo. And both goalies have been beaten a couple of times with low shots. And this time it's Dawson finding net, and we're tied at 4 with 8:48 to go here in the first half.
16th season in the National Lacrosse League. Dan Dawson, the 2009 MVP. 6-time All-Pro, and Dave, 1,239 points unofficially, 5th overall in points of NLL career. There's a break for Rochester, just running in from the draw. Graham Hosick. That's turned aside by Buffalo, and Anthony Cosmo, and clearing it back out is Dave Brock. Brock with the ball, tipping it over to Craig England. Scoring in tonight's game as well, back to Pat Saunders. Saunders over the shoulder feed to Alexander Keto Hill. Hill to the near side. Tipping it back over to Stainhouse. Stainhouse forced to the near corner and is picked up by the Knighthawks, and they rush down the right wing lane. Coming across the line. Adam Bomberry takes a twirl from the near corner, feeds it back out to midfield over to Joey Reseteris, who comes in from left. Across the line from the top of the slot now to the near side. Jackson back over to Vitorelli. Now to Lomas. Far side pass. There's a shot by Reseteris. Rebound comes in right in front of Anthony Cosmo. And a diving shot there by Rochester creates a flurry. And Steve Priolo, along with Rochester Nighthawk.
Suter. It's a heavyweight
want to go together.
Andrew Suter and Steve Priolo, 2 of the league's heavyweights, going to go at it here. Priolo standing up for his goaltender.
First fight of the season for the Bandits, and it's Big Steve Priolo along with Andrew Suter. Started his career in Minnesota, and now the two get close together. There's a right low shot by Priolo. Hanging on from his left, trying to get that jersey off, which he does. Suter going after Priolo now. They've crossed the restraining line and moving it back out to midfield. But 2 of them with a couple of haymakers, and Priolo jumps on top of them, much to the delight of the fans here at KeyBank Center.
Andrew Suter not afraid to throw him. Seen him get into a number of bouts in this league, and of course Big Steve Priolo as well too, as Priolo trying to fire up the KeyBank Center faithful here. as we are in a close battle here already in the first half, 4-4, as Criollo got the jersey over the head of Suits and just started wailing away with those rights. And that all started right in the scrum there in the crease after the contact with Cosmo. A couple of Bandits closed in on whoever ran to Cos, and quickly the gloves came flying off for Suits. And Criollo went right back at him. So they'll sit 5 aside, assuming.
So Andrew Suter coming back from a season-ending injury, came back on January 26th. Again, started his career in Minnesota, the captain there, also a captain in New England, and a move now to Rochester this year.
Excuse me, each 5 minutes for fighting. Criollo and Suter each.
Yep, 5 each for fighting. And just a little bit of fisticuffs here. I think it's the first fight of the season for the Bandits.
It is.
We almost had a fight in New England if they would have let England and O'Brien go at it. And of course, Bill O'Brien serving a 2-game suspension for his hit on Ryan Benesh. They gave him a concussion. Benny out once again with that concussion. As the Bandits hoping he, along with Nick Weiss and Anthony Malcolm, get better during the off week next week.
Buffalo with the ball, back to action, down to the K-Hawk zone. Score tied at 4 here in the second quarter of play. Smith, far side, shot by Saunders. Goes to the right side of the net, hit by Vince, resetting the shot clock. So Buffalo contains their positioning down into the Rochester zone. And Vince called to duty right in front of him, taking an errant ball and making the save. The ball is cleared back down into Buffalo territory. Cosmo comes up with it in the webbing of his stick, uses the turf to get it to Alexander Quito Hill, and Buffalo starts it up down the left wing side. Hill crossing the Rochester restraining line from left, now scoots over to the point. A right wing pass over to Mitch Jones. Tipping it to the far side to Saunders. Saunders from the top of the slot, shooting, scores!
You can see why Steve Dietrich's been after this guy for some time. 4th point already for Pat Saunders, his 2nd of the game, running around Brad Gillies, and he lets one go that catches Matt Vince over the left shoulder. And Buffalo back on top 5-4, 6:45 here to go in the first half, but just Saunders outrunning the Rochester defender and getting one off. As those last 2 possessions, John, Buffalo went with 3 lefties. I think that was the first time tonight we saw them go with the 3 lefties, with Saunders, Self, and Mitch Jones, changing it up after starting most of the game going with 3 righties out the front door.
Mixing it up and taking the 1-goal lead, 5-4 here in the second quarter. 6:31 remaining. Smith with the ball near side, Stainhouse. Far side pass back over to Mitch Jones. Jones deep into the Rochester corner, twirls away from Resetaris. Jones reverses his position. Feet pass out in front, shot straight on by Brad Self, turned aside by Matt Vince. And just in that flurry, I think we're going to have a penalty. And find out what it is. Stopping things with 6:18 remaining second quarter, 5-4 Buffalo.
Yeah, Graham Hossack going to go sit 2 minutes for a slash, as Buffalo already 2 for 2 at the man advantage. 7 shots on goal at the extra man, thanks part to that 5-minute power play. And this will be their 3rd chance with the extra man, as Graham Hossack gets 2 minutes for slashing here with 6:18 to go in the first half. Buffalo coming out here going back with the 3 righties here with Dane Smith, Alex Quito Hill, and Mark Stainhouse, with Saunders and Jones on the left side.
Correction.
Buffalo going 4 for 6 last week against Toronto. Smith with the ball, feeding it back over to the near corner to Quito Hill. Now back to Smith over the shoulder feed. Tipping it to Stainhouse, who swats it back over to Smith. Smith with Quito Hill with a shot. Save Vince, resetting the shot clock. Buffalo gets the ball from the left point as Mark Stainhouse. Stainhouse hanging on to that ball despite taking a couple of swats from Campbell. Smith far side. There's a shot by Saunders, hitting the turf high, and must have hit one of the Nighthawk players, because it will be Buffalo's ball. From the corner, directing traffic is Quito Hill. Shot clock reset. Yes, they're a little slow at that tonight. And hang on here. We've got
the Buffalo started the ball in play before the ref blew the whistle. I think that was the hold up here. Now we're good.
Smith from the top of the slot. Jones back to Smith, driving a shot. Vince with a save. The rebound picked up by the Knighthawks. Ian Lord, former Bandit. And Lord will rush it out of his own zone from the right point. Tipping it back out to midfield. Paul Dawson tips it down into the Buffalo zone while Mike Hazen's crew changes up here as the front door opens up to burn time off that penalty. Assessed on to Graham Hossack. 5-4 Buffalo, second quarter of play tonight from the KeyBank Center. And it's Kyle Jackson, the youngster, across the line into the near Buffalo corner. In pursuit is Adam Will taking a couple of shots. And 30-second shot clock expires onto the K-Hawks, but that's good. That's what they wanted to do. And the ball picked up by Buffalo. In over the line is Mark Steinhaus shooting it. Blocked by the K-Hawks defense. Rebound picked up by Rochester and rushed back out to midfield. Now in over the line they go. Brad Gillies, top of the slot to Dawson with a shot. Save Cosmo as he scissors the ball up between his pads. Stopping the clock with 4:41 left to play. Second quarter, 5-4 Buffalo. This is Bandits Lacrosse. Great game tonight here at KeyBank Center with the Bandits and Knighthawks. A battle of Thunder Alley, a.k.a. the Thruway Series, resumes tomorrow at 1 o'clock at the Blue Cross Arena. We will have the game for you right here on WGR Sports Radio 550 and WGWE in Salamanca. The pregame show beginning at 12:30. Face-off scheduled 1 o'clock. 8:48 left in the first quarter of play. New England with a 2-1 lead up the QEW in Toronto.
New England trying to stay in the hunt for that third place in the division. Both New England and Rochester trailing Buffalo as they entered this weekend. As Buffalo got a little separation thanks to New England's loss on Sunday to Colorado. As, of course, New England already owning a tiebreaker over the Bandits. They've already won the season series.
Bandits with the ball down to the K-Hawk zone, near side, now to the top of the slot over to Self, trying to feed it back over to Pat Saunders. He's backed up by Buffalo. From the far corner is Mitch Jones. Jones getting it back from the slot area, tipping it back over to Dane Smith. Outside the line over to Brad Self, near side, shot straight on by Alexander Quito Hill, turned aside by the Knighthawks. Ball picked up. Or did Quito, I thought for sure Vince made that stop and must have hit the end boards very quickly from this vantage point. However, Rochester right back down into Buffalo's zone. Dan Lomas with a drive, save Cosmo. Scoops it up the webbing of his stick and makes the outlet pass over to Kevin Brunell down the left wing side, now out to midfield, approaching the Rochester restraining line. 31-15 in shots favoring the Bandits, and they've got the 5-4 lead here at 3:45 remaining in the second quarter. Mark Steinhaus across the line, far side pass over to Mitch Jones. Jones looking. Has the ball from the left side of Vince, twirls back out into traffic, double teamed on the play, shot straight on. Vince comes up with a save. And the 5-time goaltender of the year, Matt Vince, tips it back out to midfield to Dan Lomas.
You have 32 shots on goal and about another 10, I think, that have been blocked by a Nighthawk defender already, John.
Yeah. There's a shot straight on by Corey Vitarelli, turned aside by Cosmo. Vitarelli gets his own rebound, and Cosmo blocks up the netting, and Buffalo starts it up with Adam Will bringing the ball back outside the K-Hawks restraining line. 3 minutes left to play here in this first half. Buffalo with a 5-4 lead. An errant ball finds its way into the Bandits bench, so it will be the Knighthawks ball, and they'll tune it up out at midfield. Bud Bailey from the Buffalo News will be my halftime guest, and we will have the halfway point mark with Bud and his thoughts of the play of the Bandits so far this season. Jackson in over the line. Nice feed pass, tipping it over to Jared Davis, but that's busted up by Buffalo's defense. Jackson getting his rebound from the corner. Vitarelli, top of the slot over to Dan Dawson. Here's Dawson. One hands the shot, save. Cosmo, rebound. Vitarelli. Shot clock reset for the Knighthawks. Joey Reseteris back over to Jared Davis, who directs traffic from left, as they've got some time to work on the shot clock. Buffalo leading it 5-4. Kyle Jackson in over the line. Hangs onto the ball over to Vitarelli with the shot over the crossbar.
Oh.
Hit the crossbar again. Bounces in front. Billy D. Smith bats the ball, and down the left wing lane comes Kevin Brunell. Brunell in over the line. He's got Keto Hill. Here's Hill. Scores! Clickety-click for number 66, Alexander Keto Hill.
Yeah, after that broken play that the ball almost bounced into the Buffalo net, Keto had already run down the floor, and he was waiting for Kevin Brownell to feed him the ball, and he just underhands it, stick side past Matt Vince. And second goal of the game for number 66, and it's a 6-4 lead for the Bandits with 2:01 to go here in the first half. A huge goal for the Bandits here, getting a little separation on the Knighthawks, as this already looking like a tight game, and it's a 2-goal lead might be one of the biggest advantages you'll see all night.
As noted, 10th of the year for Alexander Keto Hill on the 33rd Buffalo shot of this game. Scramble for the ball from the face-off circle outside center. Continues to do as such. Pops free. Buffalo's got it right back into the K-Hawk zone from the far side. Good move by Timmy Edwards, leaving the ball back to Buffalo's offense, and Mark Stainhouse is there very quickly. Brad Self also out now on this rush, as is Pat Saunders. Tipping it back over to Stainhouse from left. Stainhouse had the ball taken away by Scott Campbell, and here come the Knighthawks with 1:17 remaining in the first half. Buffalo leading at 6-4. Surge of K-Hawks right in front of the net. A hot shot stick from the right side of Anthony Cosmo. Goes along the end boards and back out to midfield. Graham Hossack is there. Far side pass, feeding it out in front. Buffalo intercepts it. Steve Prioldo tipping the ball over to Kevin Brunell, and it's a breakaway for Brunell. Brunell taking a shot. Vince with a save. And Hill outlet it to the right wing side and carried up off the running of Luke Magnan. Dan Dawson from midfield. Goes to the near side over to Joey Reseteris, now to Kyle Jackson. Far side pass. Tipping it back to Reseteris, now to Dan Dawson, twirling in front. Cosmo making the kick save. Rebound is Davis. Back to Reseteris, now to Jackson. Near side is Vitarelli with a shot, save. Cosmo. And just as Matt Vince was going to the bench for the extra attacker, Buffalo's got it, and they will call a possession timeout.
Yeah, Troy Cordley wants to call his boys in. He'd been calling it for a few seconds there before it got noticed, but right now the scoreboard shows 15.8 seconds to go in the half. So Buffalo going to set up here for a final possession, try and make this a 3-goal lead going into the locker room. But the Buffalo defense has done a great job here in this first half, forcing Rochester to make a lot of outside shots. They've been shooting a lot at the feet of Anthony Cosmo. A couple have gone in, but they've also been frustrating Corey Vitarelli, Dan Dawson, and the rest of the Rochester offense. And some good turnovers as well, too, for the Bandit defenders so far here in this game. And it's again up 6-4, 15.8 to go in the first half. Buffalo out shooting the Knighthawks 35-21. As Matt Vince has made 29 stops already, more saves than his team has had shots on goal in this first half. We saw that was last week. That was Kaz. Kaz had more saves than the Bandits had shots. This week it's Vince for the Knighthawks.
How about the night so far for Pat Saunders? 2 goals, 2 assists for 4 points. Alexander Keto Hill with a couple of goals. Craig England and Dane Smith with the other. 6-4 Buffalo. 12 seconds remaining. Can they make it 7-4? Brad Self near side. Stainhouse deep into the corner. Smith, Stainhouse play it together. Stainhouse far side. Shot by Jones. Save Vince, and that's going to do it for the first half of play, where the Bandits take a 6-4 lead to the dressing room. It's halftime here at KeyBank Center, and this is Bandits lacrosse.
Pro lacrosse teams are now fielded in Philadelphia, Boston, New York, Maryland, Montreal, and Quebec.
Yesterday, there was friendly competition and not so friendly competition. We knew our true colors weren't just worn on our backs. They were painted on our faces and hoisted as high in the air as we could possibly carry them. Whatever it took to claim our turf. Yesterday, we left it all out there. Blood, sweat, tears. You name it, we left it. We kept ourselves focused and we kept each other in check. And the only thing we took were epic shots. Yesterday, we saw more twists and turns in 8 seconds than most people saw in an entire season. We lost the ball, lost our minds. We lost count countless times in every game. If you could see the ball, that was a slow day. Yesterday, physics didn't apply to us. Gravity wasn't welcome in our box. Armed with just a stick and a ball, we took flight. Yesterday, we were the best we could be. Today is our day.
Welcome, lacrosse fans. Tyson Geik of NLL Productions here with you right now, and I'm joined by Shay Hewen, CEO and founder of the U-Hawk Camera. We have some exciting news for you today. The NLL has officially partnered with the U-Hawk Camera, the new official action camera of the National Lacrosse League. Shay, an exciting moment, for both parties here.
Yeah, it's an incredible day. It's a big step and a big moment in the history of sports, and for the National Lacrosse League to be the first league to step up and bring actual player point of view, video footage to fans at home in the actual real raw competition in the season. It's a monumental day, and we're very excited to be the official camera provider to be a part of that.
The National Lacrosse League logo honors its over 30 years of history, but also pushes towards a new era, a new day. An updated colorway of black and silver illuminates the way forward, with technology and innovation as our mandate. The shield captures the warrior spirit of the physical battle of sport while being modern enough to appeal to new audiences. The goal. By extruding the shape of the shield, the container is one that is a nod to the ubiquitous shape of a lacrosse goal. The original four arrows representing the founding of our league with 4 professional box lacrosse teams. Washington, D.C., Baltimore, New Jersey, Philadelphia, converge to create the NLL star. A modern interpretation of a star that combines both the arrows of the original 4 teams and a Native American morning star. The 4 arrows converge to create the heart of the star representing the current teams and the fans who are the beacon of the future of the National Lacrosse League. This is the National Lacrosse League. Today is our day.
Brad Self was named the NLL's 2016 Transition Player of the Year. And it seems that Brad is used to transitioning. In fact, growing up in Peterborough, Ontario, he would transition from hockey every winter to lacrosse every summer. We had a chance to sit down and find out more about this dual athlete.
It's a pleasure to be here tonight to present the Transition Player of the Year award. And the winner is Brad Self.
And Brad Self steals it away. Sean Evans in pursuit, breakaway. Shot, score!
And what a goal, Brad Self on the feed from Dane Smith.
Brad Self shooting, scores!
Brad Self helped lead the Rochester Knighthawks to 3 consecutive Champions Cups and was named last year's NLL Transition Player of the Year. Fitting, since Brad has transitioned several times in his life. He transitioned from an offensive role to the transition position. He also transitioned from professional hockey to professional lacrosse.
Hockey was wintertime. As soon as winter was over, you put the skates away and picked up your lacrosse stick, and that's, kind of how, my childhood was, and all the way up until I was 30, I was fortunate to play them as long as I did.
Growing up in Peterborough, Ontario, Brad tells us he always had a hockey stick or a lacrosse stick in his hand. He feels that being a dual athlete helped him develop skills for both sports.
Each one of them benefited the other. It certainly, helps you, learn different skill sets, become a better athlete, overcome different things, and allowed me to play with great players in both sports, which for me was a, helpful thing.
In 1999, Brad's hard work paid off. He was drafted not just by the NHL's Buffalo Sabres, but also by the NLL's Buffalo Bandits. 2 teams from the same city. Something very rare, to say the least.
You have to do some real digging, I think, to find somebody else. It's a pretty neat thing to be able to be drafted by both teams. Now, this is the first time I've actually played for one of them, and it's something I didn't really think about at the time, but obviously very fortunate to have, been drafted into both leagues, and then pretty neat to be able to be drafted by both in the same city.
After a few years of playing professional hockey, he decided it was time to transition yet again, back to lacrosse.
I knew at that point I was playing in the 2nd division in Germany that I needed more competition, and I still have the drive to play at the highest level, and felt like I could in the NLL. And I've been lucky enough to come back and be able to play in the best lacrosse league in the world.
Brad, who this season made yet another transition to the Buffalo Bandits roster, is thankful for the opportunities and experiences the NLL has brought him.
I'm lucky every day that I get to do this as a profession, and it's been a long journey. It's been an awesome one. I have some great stories, met some amazing people along the way, had some great friendships, met my wife for playing lacrosse, and playing Rochester, win some championships there and get to win with my brother. It was pretty amazing. I'll start getting emotional now. Yeah, it's been a pretty cool ride. One day I'll be able to look back, and I hope that's not for a while. I'm lucky and excited each and every day. I don't take it for granted, and it's been a blessing for me.
For NLL Productions, I'm Mia Gordon.
It's something rewarding to me, and rewarding to, I know, a couple other guys here that are here this week, to see at the end of the week them enjoy the game of lacrosse, and them actually take a little bit from what we talk about and what we say, and actually use it to their benefit of life skills, or skills that are on the floor and skills that are off the floor.
Tonight's game is brought to you in part by Sports Interaction, Canada's home for worldwide sports betting. Bet responsibly at sportsinteraction.com. Disclaimer, only residents of Canada may open an account with Sports Interaction. The service is not available to users outside of Canada.
He's got Digby on the take, scores!
Now back over to Dane Smith with a shot. Hit the goal post inside, he scores!
Afraid you might miss out on the big stories from your favorite team? Well, not to fear, the NLL newsletter is here. All you have to do is subscribe to the new NLL newsletter, and you'll get weekly updates from everything that is happening around the league. What are you waiting for? Subscribe today.
Time now for my box bosses, and these picks were actually pretty easy for me this week. I think there was 3 players that really stepped up and were very big parts of their team's wins. So let's start off at number 3 with Mark Matthews of the Saskatchewan Rush. Matthews is currently 3rd in league scoring. He's always a threat on offense. Known for his swim move, he can gain the middle of the floor and make the other team pay. But what he's really impressed me with this season has been his ability to feed the ball. He's got great lacrosse IQ and always gets the ball to his teammates at the right time. He's a big part of that offensive unit. At number 2, Rochester Knighthawks, Josh Courier, the rookie, 3 goals, 1 assist this past weekend in his team's win over the Vancouver Stealth. Courier is a rookie that's leading the way for the Knighthawks, currently tied for the team league in points. He's got 15 goals and 15 assists for 30 points on the season now. The Knighthawks' future, let me tell you, is bright with this guy on offense. He was a big part of that win in Week 9. And at number 1, I've got Mitch Jones of the Buffalo Bandits, 4 goals, 1 assist against the Toronto Rock. He's my number 1 box boss of the week. I've really liked the way that this guy's been playing all season long. He didn't really disappoint this past weekend against the Rock. He's got the Bandits on the board first with an amazing goal that he scored while lying face down. Spoiler alert, it's going to be in versus. I think the Bandits want to be successful. They have to continue to see strong play from a guy like Mitch Jones. Just a great effort. Welcome lacrosse fans, Tyson Geik of NLL Productions here with you right now, and I'm joined by Shay Hewen, CEO and founder of the U-Hawk Camera. We have some exciting news for you today. The NLL has officially partnered with the U-Hawk Camera, the new official action camera of the National Lacrosse League. Shay, an exciting moment, for both parties here.
Yeah, it's an incredible day. It's a big step and a big moment in the history of sports. And for the National Lacrosse League to be the first league to step up and bring actual player point of view, video footage to fans at home in the actual real raw competition in the season, it's a monumental day, and we're very excited to be the official camera provider to be a part of that.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the NLL Social Circle, where we take a look at some of the big stories happening across the league on social media this week. And we actually start off this episode with some big news coming from the NLL this week. That is right, the league announced on social media that season ticket memberships for 2017 have grown by double digits this year. And fans were responding to this. Wes Dorkson says that he and his wife don't agree on much when it comes to sports, but they both love the NLL. Yeehaw! It's not just a party in Calgary this week, it is actually a Western party. That is right, Calgary's very own Cole Bradley will be performing at this week's game, and fans seem to be pretty pumped up about this. So make sure you got your boots on, because I'm sure there'll be plenty of dancing. Take a look at this adorable video. Chris Corbiel, Aaron Bold, and of course Bruiser the Bulldog visited some kids at Children's Hospital of Saskatchewan this week. And sticking with the Rush, well, there was some horse-playing going on this week. Take a look at this picture posted by fan Cody Stranger. Even Grandma Rush getting involved. A big achievement unlocked in Vancouver this week. That's right, Ian Hawksby earned his 1,000th career loose ball. Congratulations. And the competition is really heating up in Colorado between 2 teammates, actually. Fans have had all week to choose if they're going to be Team Noble or Team Geich. Take a look at these videos that the players posted.
I'm with Ilya. I'm with Ilya. No. This is Team Noble territory. I just love Colorado. Such a nice city, beautiful weather, beautiful people. I just don't get it. Anyways, you can go skiing, you can go snowboarding, you can go hiking.
Say no to Team Noble!
What's wrong with these people? Anyways, it's just such a lovely place and great people.
Fans will actually get a t-shirt of whichever team they chose to be on at this week's Mammoth game. Can't wait to see who comes out on top of this competition. Fans, that wraps up this week's episode of the NLL Social Circle. If you want a chance to be featured here, well, all you gotta do is make sure you're tagging the NLL in all of your social media posts. For NLL Productions, I'm Mia Gordon.
Rochester, Alexander Keto Hill at 12:32 of quarter number one. Saunders, top of the slot to Smith. Saunders with a shot. That's blocked by the K-Hawks defense. Saunders gets his own rebound. 5 seconds left on the shot clock for Buffalo. Here's Keto Hill. Scores! On the power play from Pat Saunders. Second quarter action. Rochester scores again. Jared Davis. And then Buffalo with a short 2-goal run. Starts with Craig England. Brad Self from the right point, twirling around, finds an open Craig England from the left side. England powers his way in, low shot, scores! A lot of English on that one. 4:08 the time of the goal. Pat Saunders responds, the first of 2 on the night. Score tied at 3 here in the second quarter to play from the left wing side. Feed pass, score! Welcome, Pat Saunders. 5:34 the time of the goal. Rochester responds. Dan Dawson at 6:12. And then Pat Saunders again. Hill crossing the Rochester restraining line from left. Now scoots over to the point. A right wing pass over to Mitch Jones. Tipping it to the far side to Saunders. Saunders from the top of the slot. Shooting, scores! And at 12:59 it's Alexander Keto Hill. Billy D. Smith bats the ball, and down the left wing lane comes Kevin Brunel. Brunel in over the line. He's got Keto Hill. Here's Hill. Scores! Clickety-click for number 66, Alexander Keto Hill. And that's where we stand going into the third quarter of play. We're going to ask TJ Luckman to keep it right here because we're ready to go with quarter number 3. After 1, New England and Toronto tied at 3. And here we go with the ball down in Buffalo. Tipping it already into the K-Hawk zone. Brad Self is there. Getting some help by Timmy Edwards. Trying to get some room for Self. So Edwards doing a fine job on faceoffs, but also carrying the ball down into the K-Hawk zone. Buffalo's offense now on the turf as Stainhouse twirls from the far corner. Back to Self with a shot. Vince with a save.
You mentioned Edwards in the faceoff circle tonight, John. He is 10 for 13 on draws. That's phenomenal numbers in just his 4th game this year for Edwards, the former Canisius player.
K-Hawks over the Buffalo line. Dan Dawson from the top of the slot goes to the far side. Deaking pushing the ball now to the near side over to Joey Reseteris. Reseteris hangs on to the ball. Penalty coming up against Buffalo as Vince goes to the bench and the 6th attacker is out. Shot straight on as Cosmo makes the save, but hang on in the early goings of quarter number 3. The Bandits being called for a penalty.
Yeah, the aforementioned Mr. Edwards going to the box for 2 minutes, and I believe this is going to be a holding call. Yeah, holding the stick for Edwards. So Rochester goes in the power play for the second time tonight. They're 0 for 1 with the man advantage so far this evening. And they'll have a chance to cut this lead to 1 with just under 14 minutes to go.
Well, there's always a chance for first continuing, right? There's Tim Edwards' first game, Tim Edwards' first goal. Now he has his first penalty.
It's bound to happen.
There's a shot and a goal by the K-Hawks. They come within 1 on their 5th goal of the night.
Kyle Jackson's 2nd of the night, I believe, as Dawson, the no-look pass. And he goes between the legs of Anthony Cosmo. That's been a familiar target for the Knighthawks tonight on Cos. And it cuts that lead to 1 now with 13:46 to go in the third quarter. And indeed, the former Wolverine, 2 goals now on the night, along with an assist. 7th overall pick in the draft last September.
Great on the power play, assisting in 12 points there. And there's a score by Buffalo!
Well, Timmy Edwards just redeemed himself there a little bit. Another face-off win. He gets the ball, goes in on transition with Mitch Desnew, and it's a little pass over to Desnew. His 2nd of the year as he just gets one around the stick side of Matt Vince, and Buffalo gets that 2-goal lead right back as Desnew on the leaping reacher around Vince, and it's 7-5 with now 13:38 to go, and that's why you have that face-off specialist, John. Kill the momentum, get it going right back in your favor after the opposing team scores.
Matter of 12 seconds, Buffalo scores to regain their 2-goal lead, 7-5. Alexander Keto Hill from the slot to the near side of it, Mitch Jones. Saunders going in close while Jones hangs onto the ball. Looks to go to the far side over to Dane Smith. Shooting it. And Vince comes up with a scissoring save to the right side of the K-Hawks net. 7-5 Buffalo here in the third quarter of play. Shots on goal favoring the Bandits 39-23. They have not relinquished that lead in the category of shots all game long. Josh Courier tipping it back over to Lomas. Now goes to the far side. Top of the slot. Lomas with a shot wide. Rebound Buffalo. Steve Priolo. Good check along the way on Matthew Bennett. But Dave Brock carries the ball in over the line, and Brock powers his big frame down in the K-Hawk zone, loses control of the ball, and the Knighthawks charge back out at midfield. Buffalo leading it 7-5 here in quarter number 3. These two teams tomorrow at Blue Cross Arena, 1 o'clock, as Lomas leads the ball. Picked up nicely by Scott Campbell. Forcing the play down to the Bandit zone to the far corner. Scrambled for the ball along the dasher boards to the left side of Anthony Cosmo. Trying to kick it, swipe it, push it along, and finally they'll close. And the 30-second shot clock against Rochester affords Buffalo the ball, and they'll bring it out of their own zone. Leading it 7-5 here in the third. Out at midfield is Dane Smith. Right wing pass over to Pat Saunders. 4 points tonight for Saunders. Self, far side pass to a running Keto Hill. Takes a 360 turn. Back to the top of the slot to Smith, who dekes his way. Smith scores!
Little fancy footwork from the great Dane. And he gets around the Rochester defender, gets the shot off, and beats Matt Vince on the glove side. And for the first time tonight, the Bandits have a 3-goal lead now on Rochester, 8-5. With 11:45 to go, as he dipsy-doos around Dawson, gets a little room and sidearms that one to beat Matt Vince. Second of the night for Dane Smith.
Buffalo Bandits 8 goals. You know what to do. Scoring number 92, Dane Smith.
Well, you heard from John Tavares at the beginning of the game, the offensive coordinator, trying to shoot against Matt Vince, and he said shoot from the outside because Rochester will give you that. And Dane Smith successful in doing so with his second goal of the night, and an 8-5 lead for Buffalo. They've got the ball again. Into the line is Brad Self. Charging in from the slot area is Jones. Self going to Stainhouse. Back to Self. Taking a wide turn from the top of the slot. He's got Jones to the right side, but Self hangs on to it with 10 to shoot. Now Jones dashing in. Jones with a shot. Wide. Rebound Buffalo, 5 seconds to shoot. Ball in front. As Craig England is hit hard to the right side of the Rochester net, but the ball jars free and comes back out to midfield. Joel Matthews, former Bandit, leaving the ball in transition for the K-Hawks offense, led by Dan Dawson from the top of the slot. Corey Vitarelli from the far corner, twirling and hanging onto the ball with 10 to shoot for the Knighthawks. There's a shot that goes wide. Rebound picked up by Mitch DeSnew and pushes it back out to midfield. Connection made over to Steve Priolo. Priolo to Keto Hill with a shot. Save, Vince.
And Matt Vince was holding his arm tight, making sure that one didn't drop out and roll into the net, as a nice chance in transition there for the Bandits there to try and go up by 4. Rochester player out there must have changed jerseys, Johnny. We're number 56 with no name on the back.
It might be sooner because his jersey was pulled hard by Cipriotto in that fight. He stretched it out. Played about 5 minutes of this third quarter. Buffalo with an 8-5 lead, and they've got the ball. Outside the line is Dane Smith. A right wing pass over to Mitch Jones, tipping it back over to Brad Self, who finds an open Mark Stainhouse. Now back over to Smith from left, deking his way and taken down onto the turf, loses the ball, and it's picked up by the K-Hawks. Into the line they come. Carried it hard by Dylan Evans, but he's hit hard as well. There's a rebound that goes to the right side of the Buffalo net. Shot clock is reset, and the Knighthawks have it outside at midfield. 8-5 Buffalo, quarter number 3. Shots on goal, 41-25, favoring the Bandits. In over the line, Josh Courier hangs on from the left point. looking for an open lane. Courier with a shot, shoulder save, Cosmo. And he makes the outlet pass back over to Mitch DeSnew, looking for two. DeSnew, far side pass over to Dane Smith. Couldn't hang on to it. And the loose ball picked up by the Knighthawks, but DeSnew wants it back and forces the play along the boards to the near side out at midfield. Finally picked up by Josh Courier. Comes across the line. Uses the turf to getting it back over to Paul Dawson. Now tipping it over to Davis, running to Courier. 10 seconds left. Courier with a shot. Save, Cosmo. And boy, he does have a hard shot. The youngster, Josh Courier, for the Knighthawks. 8-5 Buffalo, quarter number 3. This is Bandits lacrosse.
Tonight's game is brought to you in part by Sports Interaction, Canada's home for worldwide sports betting. Bet responsibly at sportsinteraction.com. Disclaimer, only residents of Canada may open an account with Sports Interaction. The service is not available to users outside of Canada.
Rebroadcast without the express written consent of the National Lacrosse League. John Gertler, Dave Buchanan with you this evening from the KeyBank Center in downtown Buffalo. Scott Fleetwood, our director. TJ Luckman, our producer. And Barry McClellan, our producer on NLLTV.com. Great to have you with us tonight. Buffalo with an 8-5 lead. And when we resume, Dave Buchanan, they will have control of the ball. Like the way that the Bandits are working that ball tonight. Keeping it hot.
Yeah, they've been getting shots outside and inside, and they've been getting some to drop here on Matt Vincent. They're looking to go on a 3-goal run here to extend the lead 9-5. As we're just waiting to get the whistle to get this one back in play. And the offense, which most of tonight has gone with 3 right-handed shooters, has been playing well for Buffalo so far this evening.
Stainhouse at center. Self passing it down to Mitch Jones from the slot area. Far side pass over to Dane Smith, who finds an open Stainhouse. Now to Alexander Keto Hill deep from the Rochester far corner. Keto Hill backhand pass over to Smith. There's the shot by Self. He scores!
Brad Self gets one on his former mates as he blows one by Matt Vince, and there is a 3-goal run for the Bandits. It's now 9-5 with 8:17 to go in the third quarter. Dane Smith feeds it over to Self, who pulls it back, gets some room on Paul Dawson, and lets one rip, and it beats Vino on the stick side. And Self with his first of the night, as he was featured this week on NLL.com. Mia Gordon did a nice chat with Brad and kind of chronicled his path to the National Lacrosse League after his hockey career. Catching up with him after practice on Tuesday. A nice profile by Mia and the folks from NLL.com.
So Brad Self, who shoots 24% from the floor, finding net for his 10th of the season, and gives Buffalo the big 4-goal lead with 8 minutes left to play here in the third. Corey Vitarelli back over to Dan Dawson with a shot straight on, shoulder saved by Cosmo. Rebound picked up by the K-Hawks, Joey Reseteris. Resetting the shot clock. Dawson over the shoulder feed to Reseteris with a shot. Save, Cosmo.
2 huge saves by Cos there. First Dawson in close, and then Reseteris, but now Cosmo is still down on his back here, as he might have collided with Mitch DeSnew in the crease or hurt something trying to stop that in-close shot by Reseteris, but Cosmo is down in the crease being attended to by the Bandit trainers.
Joey Reseteris right in on Buffalo's goaltender, along with Mitch DeSnew, and that's a lot of power going into the big netminder for Buffalo, Anthony Cosmo, being attended to by Bandits athletic trainer Jim Starhe.
Didn't look like there was much contact with Reseteris. Again, it might have been DeSnew, or he just extended something trying to make the save as he went from side to side. As looks like they're looking at the right knee of Anthony Cosmo right now. But he is still laying down on the turf. And for the moment, David DeRuccio still just standing on the bench, not getting any gear on, although they are starting to hand him his gloves. And now Cosmo getting to his feet with a little bit of aid from Billy D. Smith. And he is trying to shake it off at the moment. And it looks like Cos is going to stay in the game, John. The 17-year veteran. And he is about 14 saves away from 7,000 saves in his National Lacrosse League career.
Keep it on track of that one. Here's the first replay that we're watching at KeyBank Center with Joey Restiteris and Mitch DeSnew colliding in on the Buffalo goaltender Anthony Cosmo. Back to action down to the K-Hawk zone. It's Mark Stainhouse tipping it back over to Pat Saunders. Now to Mitch Jones. Jones finding it open. Dane Smith at left. Smith back to Stainhouse. I defeated on a quick stick over to Mitch Jones, who comes up with the ball from the corner. One hands it over to Saunders with a shot. Saved Vince. And the rebound cleared out by the K-Hawks netminder. And here's a charge by Rochester in over the line. Adam Bumberry quickly tips it back over to Josh Courier, who sets up at left. Courier now over to Dan Dawson, who directs traffic outside the restraining line of Buffalo. Back to Courier. Courier deking his way into traffic from the slot. A right wing pass. Tipping it back over to Dan Lomas. Lomas with a drive left side of the Buffalo net, and the shot clock expires. And it will be Buffalo's ball. Or no, it's reset. I didn't see it hit anybody, did you?
I think it was Buffalo had it, but it was a turnover, so that's why I think they got the fresh 30, because it was a turnover by Buffalo.
Buffalo with a 9-5 lead. K-Hawks with the ball down to the Bandits zone. Kyle Jackson from the slot area, and a player goes down and a penalty coming up. And it's going against Billy D. Smith. Ball is hit by a Buffalo defender and finally shot wide by Rochester, and a screwy play there in just moments after a big hit by Billy D. Smith.
Yeah, he dropped Jared Davis to the turf, but Davis got back to his feet after the penalty was called. And it is a 5-minute major slash for the captain, Billy D. Smith. So Buffalo takes their first major penalty, well, first solo major penalty of the game. There was the fighting major to Priolo earlier, but this is the first time Rochester will have a 5-minute power play, as they are 1 for 2 with the man advantage with 4 shots. As Jared Davis getting hacked by Billy D. And
we just saw a replay of it, so very quickly, when I was watching the replay, Billy D. Smith and Rochester waste little time on the 5-minute major to get back into this game.
Yeah, Corey Vitarelli lets one loose, and on the pass from Restiteris, goes low, stick side on Cosmo, and Vitarelli cuts this lead to 3 now, 9-6 with 6:07 to go in the third quarter. It's hard to tell from our replay on the scoreboard here exactly the slash on Billy D, but...
Well, I'd give it a judging call of an acting, probably 5.8.
Did you get the right envelope for that award?
Yeah. I'm calling it.
You're not gonna realize that somebody else should have won.
That was a pretty good hit by Billy D. Smith, granted, but there was a nice little drop by the Rochester player. Anyway, Corey Vitarelli finding net, as he does on a frequent basis for the K-Hawks. Bring with them with 3. Top of the slot is Courier. Good feed pass over to Joey Restiteris, backed up by Dan Dawson. Dawson looking, top of the slot, Courier. Deep pass over to Vitarelli on a quick stick, but couldn't make the connection on the full throttle, and 30-second shot clock expires on the Knighthawks.
And Rochester just behind the play just got called for a penalty as the Nighthawk took down Mitch DeSnew. Oh, and they're both going. They're both going. I thought this was going to be just on Vitarelli, but it's DeSnew also getting a call here. Both players behind the play getting tangled up. Oh, Buffalo, and Desnu getting called for embellishing the check by Vitarelli.
Oh, wait a minute. Shouldn't that have happened at the Billy D. Smith one?
Apparently not. So we stay 5-on-4 here for Rochester with 4 minutes to go in the Billy D penalty.
9-6 favoring Buffalo here in a strange third quarter of play. Trying to get some action down into the K-Hawk zone. Buffalo's Dane Smith outside the restraining line. A right wing pass over to Brad Self with a shot. Save. Vince rebounds Self on his own, resetting the 30-second shot clock. Well outside the line, and Smith will go to work just in front of the K-Hawks bench. Third quarter action, Buffalo with a 9-6 lead. Billy D. Smith in the box, 3 minutes and 33 seconds left on that major call. Smith twirling, taking time off that call of Billy D. Smith. And Dane Smith hanging on to the ball. Right wing pass over to Brad Self. Self reading it outside the line, and we'll just trickle it down into the near corner, and we'll stop things with 4 minutes and 27 seconds left to play here in this third quarter. 9-6 Buffalo. This is Bandits Lacrosse.
That's impossible.
Tonight's game is brought to you in part by Sports Interaction, Canada's home for worldwide sports betting. Bet responsibly at sportsinteraction.com. Disclaimer, only residents of Canada may open an account with Sports Interaction. The service is not available to users outside of Canada.
Rush, that was the clash of the 2016 NLL title. You might want to line yourself up with a pregame party. It starts at 6 o'clock at the Lexus Club. If you don't have a ticket, you can get the buffet and a ticket for $32. If you already have a ticket, it's only $17. That's for the next Bandits home game on April 1st against the Saskatchewan Rush. How about the game up in Toronto, Dave? New England and Toronto tied 5-5 at halftime, and another game coming up later at 9:30, Calgary at Colorado.
Obviously, playoff implications for that New England-Toronto matchup. Buffalo 2 games back of the Rock after last week's victory here at the KeyBank Center.
Back to action here in Buffalo on the floor, down into the Bandits zone. Courier over to Dawson, who works from the top of the slot. Left wing pass to Joey Reseteris behind the net. The Courier couldn't hang on to it. Lomas backs him up. Now back to Dawson, directing traffic on the power play over the shoulder feed to Reseteris with a shot. Save Cosmo, rebound Priolo. And the Bandits defenseman Steve Priolo fires the ball down into the K-Hawk zone. Alexander Keto Hill, or check that, Kevin Brunell getting tied up with Matt Vince.
Yeah, Vino not afraid to get physical either around his crease or even somewhere in the offensive zone as he went out there to challenge Brownell.
Joey Reseteris from left, top of the slot over to Dawson. Into the corner, quick stick save. Cosmo, rebound picked up by the Knighthawks and resetting the shot clock. 2:10 left in the penalty to Billy D. Smith. There's a shot straight on, save Cosmo. 9-6 Buffalo here in the third quarter of play. 3 minutes and 15 seconds remaining. Dan Dawson in over the line from the top of the slot. Tipping it over to Courier, now to Reseteris, back to Dawson. Shooting, save. Cosmo, rebound, scrambles in front of the Buffalo net. And Watt is there, back over to Steve Priolo. A breakaway for Priolo. Shooting it to the left side of Matthew Vince.
Yeah, the ball took a little bit longer to get out, so Priolo had already taken off, was all alone when Buffalo took possession. Unfortunately, could not beat Vince on the breakaway.
Knighthawks reset back down to the Bandit zone. Top of the slot is Josh Courier. To the near side is Joey Reseteris. Reseteris back to the right side of Dawson, and this play is stopped by Cosmo again. Great goaltending by Anthony Cosmo here in the second half of play. Buffalo with a 9-6 lead. 1 minute left in the penalty to Billy D. Smith. Dane Smith tipping it back over to Mark Stainhouse. Twiddling with the ball in the webbing of his stick to the far side into the Nighthawks zone. Quick feed pass over to Mitch Jones. Jones twirling. Top of the slot. Intended for Smith, but the 30-second shot clock expires. So Rochester now with 40 seconds left with a man advantage. Starts it up out at midfield. Courier well outside the line. He's got it now from the slot area. From the right wing side, back to Courier. Far corner. Pass set up over for Joey Resetaris, but couldn't make the connection, and Buffalo has the ball. Matthew Bennett getting away from a checking Dan Dawson, and Bennett brings it right to the Rochester restraining line, uses the turf to get it back out to midfield. And 5 seconds remain on the penalty to Billy D. Smith. Buffalo leads it 9-6. And it's back to full strength as Smith hangs on out at midfield while Jones goes to work over to Brad Self. Far side back over to Alexander Keto Hill, but the play is busted and Rochester wastes little time to get it right back down in the Bandits zone. Under a minute to play here in the third. 9-6 Buffalo. Joey Resetaris with the ball just outside the restraining line. Field wide pass. Tipping to the far side to Lomas. Near side back to Courier. Now to Joey Resetaris with a shot. Shoulder save Cosmo. And the ball stops right at the goal line.
That's the third or fourth one tonight, John, that's gone through a leg or an arm of Anthony Cosmo and has trickled very close to that goal line. And another one where Cos and two defenders had to swarm on it to keep it from rolling over.
Pat Saunders with 4 points on the night. An over shoulder the feed over to Mitch Jones. Left wing pass to Mark Stainhouse, but it's tipped away by Rochester's defense. And scrambling in is Graham Hosick. Good defense by Buffalo's Steve Priolo. Tips the ball right back, and here come the Bandits. Matthew Bennett in over the line. He's got Alexander Keto Hill with him on the far side. Bennett elects to go to the top area where Dane Smith is there. Now to Mitch Jones with a drive. And scissoring up is Matt Vince. And that's going to do it for quarter number 3. 9-6 Buffalo. Shots on goal favoring the Bandits. 46-36. This is Bandits Lacrosse.
Unless you've bought a vehicle from one of Transitown Automotive Group's 7 dealerships, you probably haven't thought about getting your vehicle serviced at Transitown.
Bandit Land, get into the action this season as the Buffalo Bandits set out to defend their East Division title. Get your tickets now, starting at just $21. Or purchase your McDonald's Family 4-pack for just $69. Tickets are available now at the KeyBank Center box office, online at bandits.com, or by phone at 1-888-467-2273. See you in Bandit Land. 9-6 lead over the Rochester Knighthawks. Dave, numbers so far in this game.
Buffalo has that 3-goal lead, 9-6. The shot count a little bit closer now, 46-36 in favor of the Bandits. 37 saves for Matty Vince, 30 for Anthony Cosmo. Buffalo edging the loose ball category 60-53. Both teams 2 for 3 at the man advantage. Both teams have 16 minutes of penalties, and Buffalo winning the face-off battle. 12 for 18 tonight is Tim Edwards. Both teams have had a major 5-minute power play, but both times each team has only managed to score 1 goal.
Here we go with quarter number 4. In this 60th meeting of the regular season between these two clubs, scrambling for the ball, finds Buffalo coming up with it after it's cleared by Evans right at the Rochester line, and Alexander Keto Hill has it, elects to tip it back over to Pat Saunders, who sets up the play deep into the corner. Saunders with a shot, shoulder save. Vince, rebound Buffalo, resetting the shot clock here in the early goings of quarter number 4. Again, these two teams tomorrow at 1 o'clock in the Blue Cross Arena. Dane Smith, far side pass. Mitch Jones, Brad Self, shooting, scores!
Brad Self lets one go, and that one might have got a piece of Matt Vince before rolling its way across the goal line. As Self gets his second against his former team, it's now 10-6 Bandits. Just 34 seconds here into this final quarter. Mitch Jones flips it back to Self, ducks around Andrew Suter, and low roller finds its way across the goal line, and Buffalo back up by 4 here now with 14:26 to go in the fourth.
Oh, that's the second goal scored just on the ground. There was a roller by England that hit the back of the twine, and now Brad Self doing the same. Alexander Keto Hill single-handedly back into the Rochester zone. Flips it back over to Dave Brock. Finds it open, Mark Stainhouse, who charges Buffalo's offense down to the K-Hawks zone to the near side. Here's Mark Stainhouse with a shot. He scores!
Classic Mark Stainhouse going to the crease, leaping into the air and burying one over the shoulder of an opposing goaltender. How many times have we seen Mark Stainhouse do that in his career? And it's another one for number 9, his first of the night, as he gets a run around Graham Hossack, leaps up into the air and over the right shoulder of Matt Vince, and it's now 11-6 Bandits with 14 minutes exactly to go here in the final quarter of the game. And Buffalo quickly scoring 2 here, John, to kick off this fourth quarter. And it all starts right off the faceoff. Both of those goals, those possessions, came right off of faceoff wins.
So Stainhouse pops with his 13th and continues racking up the all-time points of the National Lacrosse League. Just a couple of weeks ago, moving into 8th place overall in total points.
Yeah, both he and Dan Dawson can move a few rungs up the chart this season.
All-time great players on the floor tonight, and Dan Dawson and Mark Stainhouse. As Steve Priolo tips the ball back over to Mitch Jones, who comes in for the right wing side. Dekes his way from the corner back to the right point, now to the left point to a deking Dane Smith. Here's Smith with the ball, shooting it, and Vince coming up with a shoulder save. Makes the outlet pass over to Scott Campbell, who pushes it closer. Now to Joel Matthews. Matthews fires it inside the Buffalo zone to Dan Dawson. Matthews remains a part of the rush as Dawson dekes his way from the corner, elects to go to the right wing pass over to Corey Vitarelli. Vitarelli feed pass in front to Jackson with a shot, save Cosmo. Rebound Buffalo. And pushing it out of his own zone is a running David Brock out at midfield. This is fourth quarter action where the Bandits have an 11-6 lead over the Knighthawks. In of the line goes Mark Stainhouse. Far side pass, shooting it to Saunders. Save Vince. Makes the outlet pass, and the Knighthawks start it up again. Out at midfield. Ian Lord in a shoveling move over to Dan Dawson, fresh from the Knighthawks bench. Well, I wouldn't say fresh, but he's only had a couple of seconds to catch his breath and right back out there. Josh Courier from the far corner. Threading the needle to Vitarelli, back to Dawson, to Courier, shooting it over the shoulder of Cosmo, just with 1 second remaining on the shot clock. And now we've got a stoppage in play here.
Yeah, Mitch Jones going to go to the box here for the Bandits. So Rochester going to go back on the power play. Interference, I believe, was the call there on Mitch Jones. So Rochester already 2 for 3 with the man advantage. Goaltender interference. I think he got in the way of Vince trying to pass the ball out there at the end of the Bandits' last possession.
Knighthawks, the power play, shot straight on. Cosmo with the save, and right out of the bat with Cosmo's save, that makes the first goaltender to make 7,000 career saves. Anthony Cosmo, that's a lot of rubber.
And he will not take any of the credit for any of those saves. He'll give it all to his defense.
11-6 Buffalo here in this fourth quarter of play. Well, the Bandits shorthanded shot straight on by Craig England. Vince turning that aside, and now the power play goes to work, led by Scott Campbell of the Knighthawks, tipping it immediately over to Dan Dawson, who will quarterback the power play at left. He's got Jackson with him. Now to Vitarelli. Feed pass out in front. Shot straight on. Blocked by Buffalo's defense. Scramble for the ball continues as Vernell tries to take it away, but the K-Hawks come back up with it. 7 seconds left on the shot clock. Dawson with the ball. A little bit of traffic to the right side of Cosmo. Players regain their composure, but hang on. They're going to have a stoppage in play. And
Billy D here is getting some kind of unsportsmanlike conduct call. Check that. Mitch DeSnew is going to get another one. Unsportsmanlike conduct for DeSnew. So Rochester will have a two-man advantage for the next 47 seconds. That's what's left of Mitch Jones's call. As DeSnew, he got tied up with one of the Rochester players in the Buffalo crease, and he might have held on to him a little bit too long.
So the two-man advantage for the Knighthawks, led by Dan Dawson, passing it back over to Vitarelli, over the shoulder feed, quick stick shot, stopped by Cosmo. Rebound Priolo. Going to get 8 seconds to get out of there, and crossing the center line, which he does, and leaves the ball down into the corner of the Nighthawk zone. Dan Dawson, Jackson back to Dawson, over the shoulder feed, far side, quick stick, Vitarelli stopped by Cosmo. Rebound Jackson to Dawson to Jackson. Blocked into traffic, and the ball bounces to the near side, picked up by Vitarelli, back over to Dawson. Overruns on the ball, and it's backed up by the Knighthawks. Now back to Dawson with a shot. He scores.
That just came after Mitch Jones had left the box, so that'll spring Mitch DeSnew. So it'll be 5 aside as Dan Dawson picks the left corner on Anthony Cosmo, and the veteran Dawson gets Rochester back within 4 here, 11-7 with 9:54 to go in regulation. But Cosmo had a couple big saves there on the two-man advantage, a couple of quick stick cross-crease passes by the Knighthawks. Cosmo shut those down, so obviously that knee that held him up earlier in the game must not be feeling too bad, as he was able to get over on a couple quick stick chances there by the Knighthawks on that penalty kill.
So Dawson twice on the scoreboard here in tonight's game. Now with his 6th goal of the season. Scramble for the faceoff continues. The power against power of Tim Edwards and Dylan Evans, and finally pokes free as Edwards tried to scoop up the ball, but quick at the run as Luke Magnum. And Rochester right back with it. Dylan Evans is there. One-handing the ball in over the line. To Lomas. Far side pass over to Dan Dawson. Not take a shift off as Dawson continues with the offensive surge by the Knighthawks. Right wing pass over to Jackson. Now to Lomas with a drive. He scores.
And the rookie Lomas on the run lets one loose that hops its way past Anthony Cosmo. Gets a run around Adam Will, and that one might have hopped right before it got to Cosmo. I'm not sure. Yeah, that hit right before it hit the crease, and that got past the left arm of Anthony Cosmo. So it's now 11-8. Bandits still on top, but Rochester's cut the lead to 3 now with 9:01 to go in regulation. Lomas, another one of those rookies for the Knighthawks, along with Courier and Jackson, a 2nd-round pick by the Knighthawks this past September.
So the Knighthawks making a game of it here in the 4th quarter. Buffalo out shooting 52-41 and hanging on to an 11-8 lead. And the Knighthawks with the ball again. Down the right wing lane comes Scott Campbell. Scoots back behind the Buffalo net. Campbell. Ball intercepted by Steve Priolo, as he does so well coming into this evening's game. 16 caused turnovers. Make it even more in this game as Priolo brings the ball over the Rochester line. Tips it back to Mitch Jones, who finds an open Mark Stainhouse. Far side pass over to Craig England. Now to Dane Smith. Smith to Jones. Jones with 7 to shoot. In front, blocked into traffic. Rebound picked up by the Knighthawks and cleared right back to the doorstep of Anthony Cosmo, who's quick to scoop it up and make the pass back over to Dane Smith, who starts it up for Buffalo here in the 4th quarter of play. And tomorrow we'll have the pregame show for you beginning at 12:30 and the face-off from the Blue Cross Arena at 1. Right here on WGR Sports Radio 550. An over-the-shoulder shot. Turned aside by Jones. England with the rebound from the far corner. 5 to shoot for Buffalo. Here's England leaving it down into the corner. And Buffalo with no time left on the shot clock will stop things with 7 minutes and 44 seconds left to play. Quarter number 4. Buffalo 11, Rochester 8. This is Bandits.
Versus week 9. It's a good one. Mitch Jones of the Bandits going up against Dan Dawson of the Knighthawks. Take a look at the champion play. Dawson behind the back, below the waist shot, and beats Nick Rose. Gonna have a second look at this one. And this goal, of course, took down Curtis Dixon. Also had the behind the back, below the waist shot, also against Nick Rose. Now we look at the challenger. Mitch Jones falling on his face, scores. Wow. Second effort gets him the goal. He's got Hofstrauser on top of him and still manages to put it in. What's with the trend of all these versus goals being scored against the Rock? This goal also doing a great job of setting the stage for the duel between the Bandits and Knighthawks this weekend. Who have you got, Dan Dawson? Or do you have Mitch Jones, ladies and gentlemen? Head to Twitter now. Cast your vote. We need your help.
Bandits will be holding a youth lacrosse clinic on April 1st, 22nd, and 29th. Each child will receive on-the-floor instruction as well as 1 free ticket for remaining Bandits regular season home game, a team yearbook, and an autographed photo of a select Bandits player. Go to bandits.com/clinics to register your child today. That's the clinics on April 1st, 22nd, and 29th.
Dane Smith and Brad Self, 2 goals, 3 assists each for the Bandits. But actually, Keto leads the team right now tonight, John. 2 goals, 4 helpers for 66. And so 6 points for Keto once again here tonight. By the way, I got a tweet during halftime. They had a fan of your clickety-click for 66 call. They like that.
All right. Actually, Alex told me about that's what the announcer called him in junior. So just picked it up from that. New England now with a 6-5 lead over Toronto with 3:17 remaining in the 3rd up the QEW. There's a shot by Rochester that goes wide. Rebound back out at midfield, picked up by Lomas. He'll hang on to it. As the shot clock reset for the K-Hawks here in the 4th quarter of play. Bandits leading at 11-8. Corey Vitarelli is there from the right point. Lomas trying to get some room for him to work. Lomas has the ball, takes the shot. Cosmo with the save. The rebound swept over in front of the net by Billy D. Smith. And picked up now by the Bandits, and it's Alexander Keto Hill. Hill tipping the ball back out at midfield. Dave Brock is there. Now Mark Stainhouse completing the transition outside the line of far. Pass over to Brad Self. Self gets away from a Rochester defender. Tips the ball now to the near side to a running Dane Smith. Here's Dane Smith. Takes the shot. Saved. Vince, rebound Buffalo, resetting the shot clock here in the 4th. And the Bandits lead at 11-8. Shots on goal favoring the Bandits 53-43. Here's Stainhouse. Tip pass over to Dane Smith with a shot. Goes to the stick side, but wide. Rebound Knighthawks. And here's a break for the Knighthawks. Graham Hosick. In over the line he goes. Deep into the Buffalo corner. Hosick. Shoveling move back to the far side while the forwards get out of the front door, and Dan Dawson has it outside the restraining line now over to Kyle Jackson. Jackson to Vitarelli with a shot. Save. Cosmo hit the high netting. It will be the K-Hawks ball and a fresh 30 to boot. Dawson forcing the play back to Vitarelli. Now to Jackson. Jackson skipping, shooting. Left side of Cosmo. Rebound Buffalo. Adam Will is there. He makes an outlet pass over to Mark Stainhouse. Here's Stainhouse shooting it straight on. Vince with the save. The rebound jumps from the slot area. That's picked up by the K-Hawks and cleared back out under the running of Brad Gillies. Gillies to Dawson. He scores.
Gillies finds Dan Dawson coming off the bench in transition. And the big man Dawson, second of the night, cuts the lead to 2 for Buffalo now. Or excuse me, third of the night for Dawson. And they're watching that one closely to make sure he stayed off the line when he got that shot off. As Dawson just gets one to the stick side on Cosmo. 5:20 to go here in regulation. It is 11-9 Bandits, looking to improve to 4-5 on the year. And draw first blood in this weekend home-and-home series with their down-through-way rivals.
So Dan Dawson, who has been told to shoot that ball more and more, paying dividends tonight for the 16-year veteran with a hat trick and bringing his club within 2 of tying it up 11-9 here in the fourth quarter. 4:56 and counting remaining. Rochester again with the ball. Dan Lomas, 3-time All-American, tips it to the far side. Picked up by Courier. Now Lomas sneaks his way into close to Anthony Cosmo. Taking the shot, shoulder save. Cosmo rebound Buffalo. And here come the Bandits back out at midfield. Tim Edwards with his speed just outside the restraining line of Rochester awaits the front door to open up for Buffalo, and the line change is completed. And Dane Smith has it. Far side pass over to Mitch Jones. Or check that, Pat Saunders. Saunders now back to Dane Smith. Smith deking. Trying to get closer. Takes the shot. Shoulder save. Matt Vince rebound Buffalo. Saunders is there. Fresh 30 for Buffalo with 4:07 remaining here in the fourth quarter, leading at 11-9. Dane Smith from left. Feed pass over in front to Self. He scores.
Oh, Brad Self. No, they waved it off. I'm sorry, it's been waved off. In the crease was Self. And this might be worth a challenge by Troy Cordinley. I'm not sure. He beat Matt Vince low, but supposedly stepped on the line. Troy Cordinley trying to look at one more replay before throwing that flag, and it was close. And indeed, well, he tried to throw the flag. And yeah, there it is. It landed in the bench, I think, at first, but Troy Cordinley going to immediately challenge this one here. The goal by Brad Self would be his third of the game. Got the feed and then got around Brad Gillies and drove to the nets.
Well, they're going to check on it, and we're going to take this timeout as well. 3:57 remaining here in the fourth quarter. The challenge by Buffalo is on. And this is Buffalo Bandits lacrosse.
Not necessarily his performance just this week, but his performance from this entire season so far is the reason why Craig England is my unsung hero for this week.
Yeah, Craig England continues to get better. And if you look at that Buffalo Bandits team, every player is so excited when he gets a goal and kind of, tapping their sticks. And he really adds a lot of energy to that lineup. And I think he's been an important member of that club, like you said, not had the greatest start, but really ignites this team and adds some energy into that lineup.
And what an amazing story it is, because he's bounced from a couple of different teams, but it seems like he's really found his rhythm and his place on this Bandits roster. So I'm just excited to see how the rest of the season turns out for him.
.57 left to play. Fourth quarter, Buffalo 11, Rochester 9. The challenge by head coach Troy Cordingley on whether the goal stands or Brad Self was inside the crease area before the ball crossed the goal line.
Yeah, it's that left plant foot by Self. Did it get a piece of the line? Didn't look like it from the angles we see, although part of it is a bit blocked on the follow-through by Self. So I don't know if the evidence will be conclusive enough to turn this one over, as the call on the floor was no goal. And they're still looking at it between the penalty boxes.
Our director, Scott Fleetwood, says no goal. He's been taking a look at the monitor close to him, and we'll find out what the call of Mark Giordano will be here in this fourth quarter of play.
And unfortunately, the best angle of it, there is a Nighthawk player's head right in line with where Self's foot was on the turf. So that might, again, it might not be enough evidence, even if he didn't step on the line, to turn this one over.
So the two clubs battle to a 2-2 tie at the end of one. Buffalo goes to the halftime mark with a 6-4 lead. Then Buffalo outscores Rochester 3-2 in the third. And now the Nighthawks outscoring Buffalo 3-2 here with 3 minutes and 57 seconds left. And the Bandits trying to snap a 3-goal run. 2 goals by Dan Dawson on the recent run. The other one by Dan Lomas to make a game out of this one. And they're taking a look at possibly every angle they can. And here comes the decision by the crew chief tonight from Buffalo.
It's a goal. Fortunately, the mic wasn't working, but there was enough evidence apparently that the left foot of Brad Self did not touch the goal line. So Buffalo ends a 3-goal run by Rochester and extends their lead 2-3 once again, 12-9 with 3:57 to go here in regulation. A huge goal for the Bandits to keep a 3-goal lead and end that run by the Nighthawks. Over at the Air Canada Center late in the third quarter, New England leads Toronto 7-6. Kevin Buchanan already has 3 goals for the Black Wolves tonight.
So Brad Self gets the hat trick, and Buffalo with a 3-goal lead back at it. And now we stop things with 3:57 remaining, and I believe this will be.
This was
the actual timeout here. We don't see the actual light on right at the moment. Again, these two teams tomorrow at the Blue Cross Arena beginning at 1 o'clock. And tonight's attendance 14,475 in celebration of Native American Night.
Yeah, great night here. The Bandits do every year, of course, with the Native American communities here in Western New York. You know, they've gone hand in hand since the Bandits started, John, 26 years ago. Going back, you know, to the Kilgores, the Brett Bucktooth, Roger Vices, Mikey Thompson, who was here last week for Alumni Night, the great Native players that have played for the Bandits throughout the years, and now with guys like Alex Hill and Mitch Jones, either you know, Native Americans or First Nation players from Canada. It's so great to see that Buffalo gives back, the Bandits organization gives back to the Native American community like they do, and recognize them every year.
And again, congratulations to Nicole Printup from Niagara University of the Tuscarora Reservation, the winner for the night of the 2017 $1,000 scholarship by the Buffalo Bandits. Congratulations, Nicole.
By the way, after the game, you can go to WGR550.com. I'll have post-game interviews on the WGR website. We'll talk to Troy Cordingley, and I'm sure a couple Bandit players as well, so you can look for that a little bit after the game tonight or tomorrow morning on WGR550.com.
We'll be right back at it with the pregame show beginning at 12:30 on WGR Sports Radio 550 and WGWE out of Salamanca. And the game will be covered tomorrow on NLL TV as well. Fans enjoying it tonight at KeyBank Center. Proudly wearing their colors of the Buffalo Bandits and waving the signs as well. And we're back to action with Mark Stainhouse tipping the ball to the near side over to Dane Smith. Smith, far side pass back over to Pat Saunders. Now to a deking Mitch Jones, back over to Smith. Smith to Jones, shooting, scores!
Nice play there by Mitch Jones. He got the feed pass from Dane Smith. He took a shot, or took a hit, I should say, but he kept it together, held onto the ball, and still had enough control to get a shot off up and over the shoulder of Matt Vince. And it's now 13-9 Bandits as he squeaks between the two Rochester defenders and puts one over the right shoulder of Vino. 3:41 to go in regulation. Mitch Jones, John, he has been phenomenal the last 3-4 games for the Bandits. Another reason why they're looking like they're going to extend this win streak to 3 games.
Very respectable shooting percentage on the floor by Mitch Jones, and that improves tonight with his offensive output. But here comes Scott Campbell with a shot straight on. Cosmo with a save, and the rebound picked up by Andrew Watt, who leaves it for Cosmo, and Cosmo now getting charged for handling the ball inside the crease area. In and out of the crease goes Andrew Watt, so it's Rochester's ball, and a reset of the shot clock over to Rochester. 13-9 Buffalo with 3:10 remaining. Dan Dawson from the far corner, feed pass out in front, shot blocked by Buffalo's defense, and the rebound picked up by the Bandits, and here they come. Led over by Mitch Desnew, and his ball taken away from him, and the Knighthawks started up again out of their own zone. 2:52 remaining here in regulation. Buffalo with a 13-9 lead. Dan Dawson tipping the ball over to Joey Resetaris. They both set up together. Now finding it open, Kyle Jackson. Dawson from the far corner, scoots in close. Over the shoulder feed. A quick stick stopped by Anthony Cosmo, and Friolo is there for the Bandits. Left wing pass over to David Brock. Brock using the turf to get it out to midfield, and Billy D. Smith is there. Smith does the same thing. A right wing pass over to Pat Saunders, who takes a twirl outside the line and goes to the near side over to Mark Stainhouse. Stainhouse from the left side. England working with him, trying to make some room. And he gets the ball to England with a low shot. Vince with the save, and the rebound comes back out in Rochester's favor. And here come the Knighthawks with 2 minutes remaining in regulation. Buffalo leading at 13-9. Right wing pass, Jackson. Outside the line, Courier. Here's Josh Courier from the far side, rushing behind the Buffalo net. A diving shot blocked by Cosmo as he locks his pad up along the left goalpost. Buffalo back out to midfield. Steve Priolo. Right wing pass, tipping it back over to Mitch Jones. Jones now outside the line to Dane Smith with 1:25 remaining here in regulation. Managing the clock with 10 to shoot. Feed pass out in front. Try by Saunders. Stopped by Vince on his knees.
I thought that one trickled in off the foot of Vince, but he somehow stopped that one from Saunders. An excellent chance.
Corey Vitarelli with a shot saved. Cosmo. Rebound along the boards outside the restraining line of Buffalo. Flipped by the Bandits back out to midfield. A chase for the ball continues, and Mitch Desnew is there. Here's Mitch Desnew with the ball. Left wing pass over to Kevin Brunell. 50 seconds remaining here in the fourth quarter. 13-9 Buffalo, and the fans on their feet here at KeyBank Center as the Bandits go with their third straight victory and head to Rochester for a game tomorrow at 1 o'clock. So it's been a great celebration of the game of lacrosse in salute of Native American Night. And a perfect way to burn off that 30-second shot clock by leaving it down in the corner as Vince gets it back outside to midfield. 15 seconds remaining here in this game as Dan Dawson brings his troops into the Bandit zone. Lomas with a low drive. Hits the end boards and goes outside to midfield. Picked up by the Knighthawks. They'll try it again. Dawson. No time left, and the Bandits victorious tonight.
Huge win for the Bandits to start off this weekend. Home and home, a big victory here at the KeyBank Center. Now a 3-game win streak and a chance tomorrow to go for a 4th straight divisional win, John. What a turnaround from 1-5. Obviously still a lot of season left, but still to get this team turned around and put together 3 wins and get them back in playoff contention and probably put them in a lot better mindset to attack the second half of this season.
Great way to start the second half of the season is to get it all evened out at the 5-5 marker. They'll have a chance to do that tomorrow with a 1 o'clock game against the Knighthawks. It's a final tonight from Buffalo. The Bandits defeat the Knighthawks 13-9. Shots on goal favoring Buffalo 59-50. So give Rochester a lot of credit in the second half of play of making a game of it. And boys will pick up this game again tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Post game coming up after this. This is Bandits Lacrosse.
Bandits postgame show, a complete review of tonight's game with full statistics, scoring, and highlights.
Well, the remaining crowd here at KeyBank Center on their feet in appreciation of the Bandits' big victory tonight over Rochester, 13-9, 14,475 on hand in celebration of Native American Night, where the Buffalo Bandits got things going in the first quarter of play, took a 6-4 lead at halftime, and we pick up with the highlights of the third quarter of play, where Rochester wasted little time getting back into the game by coming within one at 6-5, and then Buffalo went to work on a 3-goal run, and it starts at the 122 mark of quarter number 3. It's Mitch DeSnoo. 12 points there, and there's a score by Buffalo!
Well, Timmy Edwards just redeemed himself there a little bit. Another face-off win.
And Tim Edwards gets the assist. Mitch DeSnoo with his second goal of the season, that at 122. And Buffalo off that goal, taking a 7-5 lead in the third quarter of play. They go up 8-5 at the 3:15 mark. It's the great Dane Smith. Right wing pass to Pat Saunders. 4 points tonight for Saunders. Self, far side pass to a running Keto Hill, takes a 360 turn back to the top of the slot to Smith, who dekes his way. Smith scores! 3:15 again, the official time. Buffalo with an 8-5 lead. They take a 9-5 lead at 6:43. Brad Self to Alexander. Keto Hill deep from the Rochester far corner. Keto Hill backhand pass over to Smith. There's